Welcome to Cine Pro, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. The movie Abigail begins with criminals kidnap a young girl to take her ransom, but they are shocked when they find out that she is a very dangerous vampire, 400 years old. Late at night, a girl named Abigail is dancing on stage, which has no audience present, and at the same time, a group of criminals attack Abigail's house. The hacker turns off all the cameras in the house, and the sniper goes up to the top of the house to monitor the place. After the show ends, Abigail leaves and gets into her very expensive car with the driver. They don't notice that a tracking device has been placed under the car by criminals. The gang realizes they've moved, and 3 of the criminals sneak into Abigail's house, specifically into her room, hiding behind the furniture. One of the gang members discovers their plan to kidnap a child and objects, wanting to leave. However, they threaten her and convince her to continue with the mission because of the large sum of money they'll receive. She decides to go along with it. When Abigail returns home, she's on a phone call and lies down on her bed. She senses something strange in the room, ends the call, and suddenly finds the criminals attacking her. One of them tries to grab her, but she stabs him in the hand with a pencil, injuring him. Another gang member grabs her, and when the injured one attempts to hit the child, the woman with them stops him and calms him down. They inject Abigail with a sedative and put her in a bag. Meanwhile, another gang member warns the group inside the house that the child's father's car has arrived. The gang escapes through the garden. Suddenly, the alarm goes off as they're fleeing. They run quickly out of the house, get into their car with their accomplices, and manage to escape before being caught. On the road, they check Abigail's pulse to ensure she's still alive and are relieved to find she is. They encounter a traffic light ahead, and the driver stops. A large truck passes by, but they manage to cross the intersection without being seen. When they arrive at their destination, it turns out to be an old, abandoned mansion outside the city. They meet Lambert, the man who ordered them to kidnap the child in exchange for money. Lambert instructs them to take Abigail to one of the rooms and tie her up. He then lays down the rules. No one is to reveal their real name or personal stories, no fighting among themselves, and they must stay with the child for 24 hours until her father transfers $50 million to them. He doesn't disclose the identity of the child's father. Lambert collects all their phones to prevent any tracking and assigns each of them a fake name: Frank, Joey, Dean, Sammy, Rickles, and the last one, Peter. They all start enjoying the drinks in the house. Dean asks Joey for some candy, but she refuses. Dean suggests a game to try to uncover everyone's true identity, but fails, prompting Joey to laugh at him and call him stupid. She tells the others she can figure out their identities and truths through body language, posture, and clothing, but only for a price. They all put up money, and Joey begins analyzing them. She deduces that Frank was a detective. Peter was bullied for his stupidity. Sammy is a hacker from a wealthy family but works with them for the thrill. Rickles is a former Navy sniper, and Dean is a professional driver. They are all impressed by her accuracy, except for Frank, who tells Joey she's a recovering addict because she hasn't drunk anything since they arrived and has been eating a lot of candy. Joey gets upset and leaves to check on Abigail. Abigail asks Joey to remove the blindfold covering her eyes because it's hurting her. Joey covers her own face and removes the blindfold. Abigail also asks her to loosen the handcuffs because they're too tight, and Joey obliges. Abigail starts crying, asking what they plan to do with her. Joey reassures her that they won't harm her and are just waiting for the money from her father. To further comfort Abigail, Joey mentions she has a child of the same age. Abigail then tells her they've kidnapped the wrong person because her father doesn't care about her at all. Joey gets up to leave, not wanting to hear more, but Abigail stops her and apologizes for what will happen to them because of her father. Joey goes back downstairs to Frank, telling him that the child's father might be powerful and could kill them all, as Abigail suggested. Frank dismisses this, saying the child is just trying to manipulate her into helping her escape. Frank goes upstairs to question Abigail about her father. When he enters, he notices the blindfold is no longer on her face. He quickly covers his own face and points his gun at the child, asking her to describe the color of his eyes to ensure she hasn't seen him. Terrified, Abigail says she doesn't know and hasn't seen his face. Frank asks her who her father is. At first, Abigail hesitates, scared to answer, but eventually reveals that her father is someone named Christophe Lazar. Frank is shocked upon hearing the name. He immediately goes downstairs, gathers his belongings, and informs the group that he won't continue with this mission, refusing to risk his life. When asked what he learned from the child and why he's so scared, he tells them that the child's father is Christophe Lazar, the world's most powerful mafia boss and the ruler of the entire criminal underworld. Rickles and Joey manage to calm him down and convince him to stay. They begin monitoring all the areas around the house and ensure all doors are locked. Later, Joey explores the house and comes across a room filled with books, which turns out to be the mansion's library. She notices a hole in the ceiling letting in light from outside. As she leaves the room, she encounters Rickles, who seems to be attracted to her. He tells her he doesn't trust anyone in the group and suggests they stick together and escape if they find a way out. Joey agrees to team up with him. Meanwhile, Sammy discovers a room with an old television. She turns it on, lies down on the bed behind her, and is startled by a terrifying figure standing behind her. It turns out to be Dean playing a prank on her. Sammy curses at him and tells him to leave the room and never come back. After leaving, Dean finds Peter asleep and draws on his face before continuing to explore the the house. He enters a corridor filled with old photos of a young girl with her father. The girl resembles Abigail. Dean continues his way to the ground floor where the kitchen is located. He searches the fridge for food and suddenly notices a door behind him opening on its own. Naturally, Dean is scared and approaches the door, calling out to see if anyone is inside. Suddenly, something lunges at him from the room, startling him. As he tries to leave, the creature grabs his leg, but its appearance remains unseen. This creature keeps screaming for Dean and trying to call for help. At the same time, Sammy hears the screaming and rushes to the kitchen, finding Dean sitting on a chair. As she approaches him, Dean's head suddenly falls into her hands. When the gang arrives at the kitchen and sees what has happened, they all agree that Sammy couldn't have done it and that something else must have caused it. Rickles then tells them the story of Christophe Lazar's hitman, Valdez, who was arrested 3 years ago along with key members of Christophe's gang. They were taken into intelligence custody for interrogation. The day before the gang members were supposed to appear in court, intelligence agents discovered that all of them had been killed, their heads severed. The group becomes worried about the child, Abigail, and rush to check on her. They find her sleeping with no one around. As they leave her room, Rickles confesses his fear of Valdez and decides to leave immediately. However, when he tries to open the door, they are all shocked to find another door locked with iron bars. Peter attempts to break it, but the door is too strong. The banging on the iron door activates the security system, and iron bars descend over all the windows, trapping them inside the house for a full 24 hours. Rickles quickly runs to retrieve his sniper rifle but finds it missing. Joey goes to Abigail's room and asks her if she has seen anyone else in the house, reassuring her not to be afraid and to tell the truth. Abigail claims she hasn't seen anyone, but warns that if she reveals the person's identity, they will kill her. She identifies the person as Frank, saying he is Valdez and that he used to work with her father when he was in her room. Joey rushes out of the room and meets Rickles, who tells her that everything happening to them doesn't make sense and that they need to find a way out quickly before they die. Joey tells him she'll figure something out, but as she walks away, she suddenly notices Rickles standing still. She approaches him to check on him and finds part of his face eaten away. He collapses to the ground. Joey quickly raises her weapon toward everyone present and informs them that Frank is Valdez, responsible for Rickles and Dean's deaths, and that she learned this from Abigail. However, Frank denies everything, claiming he doesn't know who Valdez is and accusing Abigail of manipulating them to turn against each other. Suddenly, Frank raises his weapon at Joey, insisting he isn't Valdez and won't let her kill him. Frank orders Peter to go to the girl's room and kill her. Peter rushes to Abigail's room, but before he can shoot her, Joey enters, disarms him, and hits him. Frank and Sammy arrive in the room, and Frank threatens Joey with his weapon, forcing her to release Peter. Joey grabs her weapon, and they threaten each other. Meanwhile, Abigail frees herself from her handcuffs, stands on the bed, performs a ballet move, and hides her face. When she reveals it, they are shocked to see her face has transformed. She is a vampire. Abigail lunges at Peter, attempting to bite him, but Frank shoots her in the head. Abigail falls to the ground, but suddenly gets back up, the gunshot wound healed. Joey shoots at her again, and the group flees the room, locking the door behind them. They realize Abigail is Valdez. They check the doors and windows again, finding them still locked with no escape. Sammy tells them she needs access to the house's power generator to disable the iron barriers. They decide to gather items to fight the vampire. Sammy gets garlic, Peter grabs a pool cue, and Frank sharpens a wooden stake. Joey refuses to join them, doubting they can defeat Abigail with these tools. Frank, Sammy, and Peter return to Abigail's room, finding it empty. They hear music coming from another room and follow the sound, discovering Abigail in a dress, dancing ballet with Dean's headless body. Sammy attacks her, but Abigail strikes her, taking the garlic and sniffing it before hitting Sammy. Frank tries to defend Sammy, but Abigail overpowers him, knocking him to the ground. When Peter approaches to fight her, she knocks him down as well and takes the cross from his necklace, using it to stab him in the chest repeatedly, puncturing his chest. Frank attempts to stab her with his wooden stake, but Abigail grabs it and stabs him in the leg. The group retreats to Joey, who helps them and reminds them about the sedative-filled syringe, the only thing that might work on Abigail. They agree to split up and search for the girl, planning to alert each other via earpieces or by shouting. Sammy enters a hallway filled with spiders and bats, becoming scared and retreating backward until she falls into a swimming pool filled with corpses. She screams as she navigates through the bodies and manages to get out. Meanwhile, Peter encounters Abigail and runs, shouting through the earpiece that she's chasing him. Abigail chases him while dancing ballet. Suddenly, a door opens in front of Peter, causing him to collide with it and fall down a staircase. Frank emerges from the door and tries to run, but Abigail pushes him down the stairs as well. She descends after him, attempting to strangle him. Joey seizes the opportunity to inject Abigail with the sedative, but Abigail pushes Joey's hand away, causing the syringe to fall into a locked iron gate. Sammy pulls Abigail off Frank, but Abigail bites Sammy's arm. Abigail then grabs Frank by the leg and starts flying with him into the air. Suddenly, Peter jumps on Abigail, managing to restrain her. Joey retrieves the syringe, runs toward Abigail, and they inject her with the sedative, putting her to sleep. Sammy tells the group she feels strange where she was bitten and asks if she will turn into a vampire like Abigail. The group doesn't know how to answer. After a while, Abigail wakes up, now locked in an iron cage. Joey tells tells her that if she reveals the escape route, they will let her out of the cage. Abigail confesses that Lambert worked with her and that she was the one who brought them to the house. She begins to reveal personal details about each of their lives. Sonny began her hacking career by stealing money from her family's bank accounts. Before that, she thought of advancing by stealing accounts belonging to their mafia in the bank. Peter, on the other hand, was the most important member of the Guard for a dangerous criminal family that competed with them. He eliminated a large number of their mafia members. He was also constantly bullied for his apparent foolishness. Frank infiltrated their mafia, pretending to be one of them. Eventually, he left the police force and became a criminal just like them. Lastly, Joey was a former military doctor who was fired from her job. Due to her addiction to alcohol, she left her son with his father and never thought of contacting him again. Previously, she performed a dangerous operation on a criminal who was part of their gang. She informed them that everyone present had done something to upset her father, Lazar. She explained that they only brought people who had angered him. Abigail then made them an offer, saying that if they released her, she would let 2 of them live. Frank became upset and told them they needed to get rid of her. However, Joey calmed him down and told him to wait until they left the place. Abigail then made another offer, saying she would let the one who freed her from the cage live. Peter apologizes to them, grabs his weapon, and approaches the cage to open it for Abigail. Joey shoots Peter in the side, takes his weapon, and asks Frank to guard Abigail. Joey takes Peter to treat his wound. After everyone leaves, Frank asks Abigail to tell him about the escape route, promising to free her. Abigail tells him there is a book in the library room that needs to be pulled to reveal a secret passage. Frank thanks her but leaves without opening the cage. Abigail reminds him of his promise and how he didn't keep it. Suddenly, she breaks the cage door, jumps on him, and attacks him. At that moment, Joey arrives in the room and breaks a window, allowing sunlight to enter. This weakens Abigail, who runs into the shadows to recover. Joey takes Frank and escapes to the library room, where they all sit under the open window, letting sunlight in. Abigail cannot approach them. Sammy appears fine, standing in the sunlight. Frank attempts to pull the book Abigail mentioned, but the door doesn't open. Joey notices a wooden wall and suspects it's the escape route. She tries to break it, but fails. Joey eats her last piece of candy and begins to feel anxious. She accuses Sammy of abandoning her son because she was trying to overcome her addiction. Joey says she planned to use the money from this operation to take her son and start a new life together. Sammy tells them they can't just sit there because everyone has families who want to see them. They need to find the power generator in the place. The group splits into 2. Sammy and Peter go together, while Frank and Joey team up. Meanwhile, Abigail plays a music record and begins to control Sammy, who quickly turns into a vampire and attacks Peter, eating his flesh with delight. Abigail dances, controlling Sammy like a puppet. Frank and Joey arrive at the scene and find Sammy sitting on the ground near Peter's body, pretending to cry. Suddenly, Sammy rises, and Abigail reveals she is controlling her. Frank and Joey run to the library as the sunlight weakens. Sammy enters the room, ready to attack them. Joey grabs a tray and reflects sunlight onto Sammy, causing her body to explode. A secret door in the library opens behind them. They suspect it's a trap, but eventually enter. They walk until they find a room with 6 camera recordings. Inside, they find Lambert, who had been watching everything through the cameras. Lambert reveals he is also a vampire. He grabs Joey by the neck and begins explaining to Frank how Abigail turned him into a vampire 2 years ago to help him infiltrate their mafia. She threatened to kill his family if he didn't assist her. Lambert brought all of her father's enemies to this place. Lambert offers to turn Frank into a vampire in exchange for helping him eliminate Abigail so they can rule the criminal world together. Frank agrees without hesitation. Lambert lets go of Joey and bites Frank, then cuts his hand and makes Frank drink his blood. Joey watches as Frank transforms into a vampire, writhing in pain and losing a large amount of blood. Once Frank transforms, Lambert orders him to kill his first victim, Joey. Instead, Frank stabs Lambert, causing his body to explode. At this moment, Abigail arrives. Unaware that Frank has transformed, she jumps on him to drink his blood, but the opposite happens. Frank drinks her blood instead. Joey seizes the opportunity, grabs her phone, and disables the house's security system to escape. She runs to the door leading to the library, but finds it locked. Frank continues drinking Abigail's blood, draining her energy. Joey tries calling her son, but he doesn't answer. She leaves him a voicemail, telling him she loves him very much. Frank arrives, pushes her against the door, and breaks it, entering the library room. Joey tries to fight him off, but Frank is unaffected. He grabs her by the neck and throws her from a high place. Abigail catches her before she hits the ground and tells Joey they need to work together to defeat Frank. Joey agrees on the condition that she will be allowed to escape the mansion afterward. Frank descends to face them, and a fierce battle ensues. Frank proves to be much stronger than the 2 of them. He impales Joey with an iron rod, pinning her to the wall, and continues fighting Abigail. Frank manages to strike Abigail and drink her blood. Abigail signals Joey, reminding her of their promise to help each other. Abigail collapses after Frank drinks her blood. Frank approaches Joey, bites her neck, and throws her to the ground, leaving her unconscious. When Joey regains consciousness, she uses her vampire strength to grab a stake and stab Abigail. Joey pretends to be going after Abigail, but suddenly turns and tries to stab Frank. Frank blocks the attack, takes the stake from her, and strikes her. Abigail seizes the opportunity opportunity to jump on Frank, and they resume fighting. Joey pulls the iron rod from the wall and manages to, and Abigail Frank B. His body explodes like the ones before him. Joey gets tense and feels like she's about to transform too, because before he died, he bit her. Abigail tells her that this won't happen, because Frank is dead. Abigail tells her to leave and that she promised her. Joey feels relieved and heads to the door, but she stops and looks back at Abigail, and suddenly she's startled by a hand grabbing her shoulder. Joey gets scared and falls to the ground, realizing it's Christophe Lazar, Abigail's father. Lazar admits that he wants to drink Joey's blood, and before he gets close to her, his daughter intervenes and tells him she saved her and that he must let her go immediately. Lazar grabs Joey's hand as a gesture of gratitude and lets her leave. Joey quickly gets out, feeling happy, gets into the car, escapes the mansion, and manages to save her life. And here we come to the end of our movie. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an updates. See you in the next video. Thank
Welcome to Movie Slice. Quick, fun recaps of your favorite movies. Sharp, funny, and to the point. Hit subscribe and get your perfect slice of cinema. The movie begins with a young man named John. John wakes up in the morning and decides not to go to school that day because he wants to play on the computer. He finds a message from his mother asking him to go out and buy food and household supplies, but John ignores the message and sits at the computer to play with his friends. While playing, he tells his friends in the game to turn on the TV immediately and watch the news. John becomes curious and turns on the TV where the news anchor is speaking, but suddenly the broadcast cuts off. John grabs his phone and finds there's no signal. He looks out the window and sees people running in panic, some attacking each other without any clear reason. He sees a girl biting her mother in a horrific scene. John is shocked and doesn't understand what's happening, and there's no rescue arriving. He then hears people shouting in his building. When he looks through the peephole, he doesn't see anyone, so he decides to open the door. Suddenly, his neighbor barges in, saying that people outside have gone crazy. His brother attacked him at home, turning into a zombie and trying to kill him. The neighbor asks to stay with John for a while, but John refuses, suggesting he call the police instead. The neighbor calms down and asks to use John's bathroom before leaving. John agrees and lets him in. Meanwhile, the TV signal returns, and it's announced that both the signal and communications are unstable, and cities are in chaos due to a recently spread infection. Those infected turn into zombies, becoming extremely violent and feeding on human flesh. The anchor warns that anyone bitten by a zombie will also turn into one. Symptoms include bleeding from the eyes and severe pain before transformation. John is neighbor in the bathroom and decides to grab a knife to protect himself. The neighbor comes out, covering a wound on his neck. John raises the knife, but the neighbor tries to reassure him, saying he's fine and just needs an hour to rest. John notices blood on the neighbor's hand and becomes scared. Shortly after, the neighbor's eyes begin to bleed, and he looks in the mirror in shock, screaming. He starts convulsing, his body contorting as he fully transforms into a zombie. He attacks John, trying to bite him, but John quickly pushes him out of the apartment and stabs him in self-defense. John successfully locks himself inside. Looking through the peephole, he sees a massive zombie attacking and devouring his neighbor. John is horrified and remains silent so the zombie won't hear him. Blood from the neighbor seeps under the door, and John is overcome with fear. He moves a large fridge to block the apartment door, ensuring no one can enter. He washes his face, hoping it's all just a nightmare, but realizes it's real. He tries calling his sister, but the network is down. He receives a message from her saying, "Don't worry about us. We're safe. Never open the door and make sure your food lasts as long as possible. Take care of yourself and beware of the zombies everywhere." John looks at a photo of his family, hoping they stay safe. He checks his food supplies and discovers there's very little left. He regrets not listening to his mother and going out to buy food. He sleeps on the couch, and the next day, the news reports that the infection has spread further, with many people turning into zombies. The anchor interviews a doctor who explains that zombies exhibit extreme violence and aggression. She advises everyone to stay cautious, secure their homes, stockpile enough food for 2 months, and avoid going outside until the situation becomes clear. John sees people posting photos and messages online, pleading for help from the army and police. If he decides to do the same, taking a photo of himself holding a paper with his name and address and uploads it online, asking for help. He watches a video of someone stepping onto their balcony with a phone, trying to get a signal. The person succeeds but loses balance and falls. Inspired by this, John uses a drone, attaching his phone to it. He connects the drone to his goggles, flying it high to find a signal. The idea works, and he gets a weak signal. He calls his sister, but unfortunately the drone's battery dies and it crashes along with his phone. John falls into despair, sitting at his computer to play games to pass the time, but the network disruptions prevent him from continuing. At night, he hears noises from the street and looks out the window. Suddenly, a gunshot is fired in his direction from afar. A policewoman is seen trying to kill zombies and escape. However, the zombies outnumber her, and she runs out of bullets. She tries to reload quickly, but doesn't succeed in killing the remaining zombies. They attack her, and she attempts to commit suicide suicide, but fails. The zombies knock her gun away and drag her across the ground. John witnesses this and wants to retrieve the gun for self-defense. Later, he hears loud banging on his apartment door. He grabs a bat, preparing himself. The banging causes the fridge to move, revealing a zombie behind it. John panics, trying to push the fridge back to block the zombie, but realizes it won't work. He runs to the balcony, pretending to jump. The zombie follows and jumps, falling to its death. John feels relieved and sees a large horde of zombies in the distance, including the policewoman who is now turned into one. He secures his apartment door with nails to prevent any further intrusions. John discovers that all his food fell out of the fridge during the struggle, leaving him disheartened as it was his only supply. He hears a woman screaming in the street and records a video saying, "This is my second day trapped at home. I don't know what to do. It's a miracle I'm still alive." After 7 days of the outbreak, John takes out his father's bottle of alcohol, drinking it out of desperation as there's nothing else to drink. He covers his entire balcony to prevent zombies from seeing him. Watching the news, he sees footage of zombies filling the streets. He eats instant noodles but accidentally spills water while throwing the TV remote, wasting some of his limited supply. John becomes upset, realizing the water is cut off, and the little he has left is all that remains. He regrets spilling it, knowing he must conserve every drop, and he was forced to drink water from the ground. Yet despite everything, he never left the house, even though he wanted to go out to get the policewoman's gun. When he turned on the TV, he found the same news over and over. The country couldn't find a solution. The broadcasters urged people to stay home. Days passed with nothing new. He started drinking his father's alcoholic beverages and kept dancing. Due to his drunkenness, he imagined his family entering the room. When he saw his mother, he hugged her. Then he came back to his senses and realized it was just a hallucination. He cried because of his state and felt dizzy due to the lack of water. Then he received a voice message from his mother and tried to find a signal to listen to it. He missed her terribly and wanted to check on her, so he climbed out of the window to get a signal and respond to her. The move worked and his mother answered. She told him they were at his father's company. Unfortunately, zombies invaded the company where his mother and sister were. He heard their screams as zombies attacked and killed them. He cried over them, filled with rage. He started destroying the house, breaking the TV. He went mad and left his apartment. He killed the zombie outside, screaming in despair. He saw his neighbor on the ground eating from a corpse. His neighbor began approaching him and yelled at him to back off, but John's loud voice attracted more zombies towards him. He ran quickly to get to the elevator, but there was a zombie inside, so he ran and hid, holding his breath to avoid being detected by the zombies. He sneaked back to his apartment. However, a blind zombie appeared behind him. John stood still, silent, letting the zombie pass by. When he returned to his apartment, the zombies heard him closing the door. They tried to break in, but he held onto the doorknob until they left. After 20 days, he had finished all the alcohol bottles. He saw power stations exploding, and the electricity in his building went out. He lost hope, sinking into depression. He tried to record a video, but couldn't speak a word due to his despair. He decided to end his life, tying a rope around his neck, surrendering to suicide. But suddenly, a laser light shone on him from the opposite building, pointing to the word no. John reconsidered and untied himself. It turned out there was a woman living in the opposite building named Kim. She used the laser to stop him from committing suicide. She pointed to words on a board to communicate with him, asking him not to speak so the zombies wouldn't hear. They agreed to communicate through sign language. She scolded him for thinking about suicide. They planned to meet at the window at 7 a.m. the next day. John felt joy knowing someone else was alive, regaining hope. Kim's home was equipped with traps and weapons, and she had enough food. The next morning, John woke up late for their meeting. When he looked for her, she wasn't there. Kim spotted him and ensured the area was safe before coming out. She scolded him for being late, and they introduced themselves. Later, a zombie entered Kim's house. She agreed with John to meet again at the window at 7 a.m. She returned to her house, where the zombie was caught in her trap. She killed it with a hammer. That night, it rained. John and Kim used the opportunity to put out cups and plates to collect water. The next morning, John met Kim at the window, visibly hungry. She understood and decided to send him food. She tried throwing a ball to establish a line between their buildings, but the plan failed due to the distance. John used a drone he had, attaching a string to it, successfully connecting their buildings. Kim sent a bag of food to John, making him very happy. However, a zombie grabbed the string in the street, pulling it hard, causing Kim to fall. The table holding the string dangled over the edge. The zombie climbed the string. Kim, unconscious, was in danger. John distracted the zombie with a drone. Meanwhile, many zombies tried to break into John's apartment. The climbing zombie grabbed drone, but was killed by Kim, who had regained consciousness. The zombies below screamed at her. John wrapped his feet in tape to muffle his steps, avoiding detection. He left his apartment with a stick, finding his neighbor's corpse on the ground. He took the keys to his neighbor's apartment, entering to gather food. He found a corpse in one of the rooms and 2 walkie-talkies. He checked if the corpse was alive or dead. Suddenly, a zombie attacked him from behind. John used the dead body as a shield and escaped back to his apartment safely. He enjoyed the food he collected and sent some, along with the walkie-talkie to Kim. The next day, they communicated through the walkie-talkies. John was happy to finally talk to someone. Kim thanked him for the food, but he told her she saved his life. Kim replied, I didn't save your life. You wanted to live and found a reason to keep going because of me. But John responded, anyway, without you, I would have died. They changed the subject, cooking together at the same time. They talked all day, getting to know each other better. Kim told him she was afraid of heights. John was surprised that someone who would cut off a zombie's hand could fear heights. Kim explained, I don't consider them human, so it was easy for me to cut off his hand. They both heard the sound of rain and were happy to collect water. It turns out that this wasn't the sound of rain. It was a large crowd of zombies running quickly and entering the building. Our 2 protagonists were lying on the ground, trying not to make any noise, but Kim accidentally knocked over a table, making a sound that the zombies heard. They began approaching Kim's apartment. She became very anxious and informed John of the disaster she was in. Naturally, John decided to help her by calling the phone in another apartment in Kim's building. The zombies were distracted by the sound and didn't break into Kim's apartment. Afterward, the two decided to leave the building, get to the street, and find a safe place. Kim believed there was a specific building where the 8th floor was safe and had no zombies. She assured John of this, saying she had been observing that floor for several days and hadn't seen any zombies there. Kim decided to risk her life and go down first. She tied herself with a rope, jumped out of her window, and fought off any Wanta zombies that got in her way, using her weapons to eliminate them. Despite their large numbers, she managed to handle them. John was impressed by her. She managed to retrieve a gun from the ground, and just as a zombie was about to bite her, John intervened and saved her. He then joined her, fighting the zombies. The two teamed up, fought off the zombies, and ran into the building. They locked the door, but the glass wouldn't hold for long, and the zombies were about to break through. Our heroes got into the elevator and were safe for a short time. They reached the 8th floor and inspected it, finding no trace of any zombies. They tried to open the doors of the apartments, but all were locked. Suddenly, they saw a zombie coming toward them, followed by a large horde seconds later. John managed to knock down a metal door in their path, delaying them and fighting them off until Kim managed to open one of the apartments. A man pulled her inside, threw a smoke grenade, and called for John to come in. John entered and they were safe. However, Kim was suspicious of the man and asked him who he was. The man named Sang told her she should thank him. Kim was surprised to find a man living there and said she had been certain no one was on the 8th floor. Sang replied that he also thought he was the only one alive in the area. He offered them water, but Kim was still uneasy. When she saw him drink from the same water, she felt reassured and drank. Sang also offered them food, telling them to eat until the rescue team arrived. They were shocked and overjoyed to learn that a rescue team was coming. Sang explained that he had learned this from the television. John was so happy that he hugged Kim, feeling hopeful about surviving. However, minutes later, John lost consciousness. It turned out that Sang had drugged the air. Food Kim couldn't react in time and also passed out. Sang dragged her into one of the rooms, tied her up and locked her inside. When Kim woke up, she found a zombie tied up next to her. Sang from outside released the rope holding the zombie, causing it to move closer to Kim. It turned out that the zombie was Sang's wife, and he wanted her to feed on any human to survive. He let her attack Kim. At the same time, John woke up, pointed a gun at Sang, and called him a monster. Sang replied that he was trying to save his wife from death. He let go of the zombie's rope, and John ran to grab it, pulling the zombie away from Kim. Sang grabbed a knife and told John to let his wife eat Kim, promising to let him live and give him any food he wanted. Sang pleaded with John to agree, but John couldn't hold onto the rope for long, and it slipped from his hands. Kim screamed, and John tried to open the door. Sang fell to the ground. Suddenly, Kim stopped screaming, making them think she had been bitten. Sang opened the door to see what had happened, but his wife, the zombie, attacked him. Kim grabbed the gun and pointed it at them. Sang allowed his wife to feed on him, and she devoured him completely. Kim shot and killed them both. The gunfire attracted all the zombies in the area to their apartment. Kim and John heard the sound of zombies approaching, and they became hopeless, thinking this was the end. Kim handed the gun to John and asked him to shoot her. After some hesitation and tears, John agreed, but suddenly they heard the sound of helicopters. They looked out the window and saw the helicopters. They rushed to the roof, hoping to be seen by the helicopters. They threw smoke bombs and fought off any zombies that stood in their way. While climbing the stairs, the zombies managed to knock Kim down. John intervened and saved her, trying to hold them off with a bicycle. He ordered Kim to go to the roof and signal the helicopter. She made it to the roof, but the helicopters had already left. John followed her, locking the door behind him to buy some time. He was devastated to find that the helicopters had left. He shouted and called for help, realizing this was truly the end. The zombies broke through the door and rushed toward them. John killed 2 of them with a gun, but he ran out of bullets. Suddenly, a military helicopter appeared, and soldiers opened fire on the zombies, killing them one by one. John and Kim were rescued and boarded the helicopter, which flew them to safety. Miraculously, our heroes survived. They heard on the radio that over 50,000 people in the city had been infected, and the city was nearly deserted. The military revealed that they had located John through the photo he'd uploaded. And with that, the episode concluded. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video. Welcome to Movie Slice, quick fun recaps of your favorite movies. Sharp, funny, and to the point. Hit subscribe and get your perfect slice of cinema. The story begins with an old man named Gohan. We see him training his grandson, Goku, in martial arts. It is revealed that Gohan is one of the best martial arts teachers. As they continue training, Gohan tells Goku that whoever touches the ground loses. Gohan defeats Goku and pushes him to the ground. Afterward, Gohan takes out a small box and gives it to Goku as a birthday gift. When Goku opens the box, he finds a fiery ball inside. Gohan explains to him that this ball is one of the 7 7 Dragon Balls, which are very rare. There are only 7 of them in the world. Goku asks him what can be done with the ball and why it is so rare. Gohan responds, explaining that if someone manages to gather all 7 balls together, a dragon named Shenron will appear and grant one wish. Later, we see Goku going to school on his bicycle, but suddenly a student from the same school arrives in his car. The student runs over Goku's bicycle, angering him, and Goku demands compensation. The student, named Fulo, refuses to compensate Goku and provokes him with words to start a fight. However, Goku controls his temper. At the same time, 2 girls arrive, one of them named Chi. They call out to Fulo and his friends, saying that a lesson is starting. In another scene, we see a masked man with a strange appearance. He descends to a village and attacks it, destroying it. Then we see a woman from the village trying to protect her daughter. Suddenly, another person, revealed to be the assistant of the masked man, attacks them. She is armed and demands the ball from the woman, threatening to kill her. The woman hands over the ball. Now we return to Goku, who is at school and sees Chi. She is trying to open her locker, but cannot manage it. Goku from afar uses his power to open all the lockers. Chi notices this and approaches Goku to talk to him. She realizes that he has superhuman powers. Chi then decides to invite Goku to a party. She tells him it will be held at her house that evening. At night, we see Goku preparing to go to the party. Before leaving, he takes the fiery ball with him. Meanwhile, Gohan is preparing dinner. Goku arrives at the party, but Fulo and his friends block his way. They provoke him with words to start a fight and hit him. When they attack Goku, he manages to dodge their blows, making them hit each other without him touching them. Fulo grabs a metal rod and attacks Goku, but Goku avoids his strikes and climbs onto Fulo's car. Fulo tries to hit Goku again, but Goku dodges, causing Fulo to damage his own car in the process. Chi was watching from afar, and it is clear that she admired Goku's character. Now, we return to Gohan, who was making a birthday cake for his grandson and waiting for him to return. Suddenly, the masked man and his assistant attack. The masked man demands the fiery ball from Gohan. When Gohan says he doesn't have it, the masked man destroys the house, leaving Gohan under the rubble. At that moment, Goku is at the party, talking to Chi. He tells her that it's his birthday today. Chi asks about his parents, and Goku explains that they died under mysterious circumstances. He says that his grandfather is the only family he has left and knows the truth about his parents' deaths. Gohan had promised to tell him the truth when he turned 18, which is today. Suddenly, Goku feels a strange sensation, as if he knows something has happened to his grandfather. He excuses himself from Chi and rushes home. When Goku arrives, he finds the house destroyed. He searches and finds his grandfather under the rubble. Gohan, in his last moments, tells Goku to escape immediately. He instructs him to find Master Roshi and tell him that Piccolo has returned to Earth. It is revealed that the masked man's name is Piccolo. Gohan warns Goku that they must gather the 7 balls before the lunar eclipse, as Piccolo is very powerful and intends to destroy Earth. After Gohan dies, Goku grieves deeply, as he is now orphaned and has no one else. He searches the house and hears someone entering. A girl named Bulma appears. Bulma is searching for her father's Dragon Ball. She fights with Goku, thinking the ball he has is the one she is looking for. Goku explains the story of the 7 balls. Bulma tells him about people who broke into her father's company and stole the ball. Goku suggests they team up to find her. Bulma agrees, and they head to the city to locate Master Roshi's house. They arrive in the city, and Bulma uses a device to locate the fiery balls. The device identifies the location of a house with a Dragon Ball. Bulma rushes to the location, and Goku follows her. By accident, Goku bumps into something and falls to the ground, making a noise. The house's owner wakes up and attacks Goku. They begin to fight. The man, impressed by Goku's strength, realizes that Goku is trained by someone he knows. The man asks Goku if he knows someone named Gohan. Goku responds that he is his grandfather. The man asks about Gohan's condition. Goku sadly informs him of Gohan's death. The man is revealed to be Master Roshi. Goku tells Roshi that his grandfather asked him to inform Roshi about Piccolo's return. Roshi asks them to search his house for his Dragon Ball. They find the ball and give it to Roshi. The 3 decide to team up to gather all the balls and defeat Piccolo before the lunar eclipse. They head to a desert location to train. Suddenly, Goku sees Chi training nearby. They talk and she consoles him over his grandfather's death. Meanwhile, Bulma's device detects a nearby Dragon Ball. They all go to the location. On the way, they fall into a large pit. A man named Oolong appears, and Bulma asks for his help. Oolong agrees to help them in exchange for their car. Bulma refuses, and they argue they remain in the pit until nightfall. The presence of a nearby ball is detected. Roshi uses his strength to get out of the pit, and then Bulma and Goku emerge. They head through the tunnel, which leads them to the volcanoes, and the device detects the presence of the ball on the other side of the volcano. But suddenly, strange-looking predatory animals appear and attack them. After a struggle, they manage to defeat them and reach the other side of the volcano. Goku manages to reach the fireball, but suddenly, Piccolo's assistant, Mai, appears. She takes the ball from Goku and tries to escape, but Goku moves quickly, retrieves the ball from her, and defeats her because he was much stronger. Later, Roshi goes to the temple and asks the temple priest to bring him the lamp to trap Piccolo again. At the same time, there was a competition between Chi-Chi and Piccolo's assistant, Mai. We see them in the wrestling ring, but Mai injures Chi-Chi and takes a drop of her blood. The competition judges disqualify Mai for breaking the rules, and Chi-Chi is declared the winner. Goku arrives to congratulate Chi-Chi on her victory. Afterward, we see Goku and Roshi training with an exercise called Maha. Roshi starts training Goku to prepare him to defeat Piccolo. The training involves gathering all one's strength and directing it toward the opponent. At night, Bulma hears a sound coming from Goku's room. She goes to check, carrying a gun, but before she enters, she sees Chi-Chi Chi-Chi, leaving Goku's room. However, moments later, Goku arrives from another place, revealing that he was not in the room at all. Chi-Chi was alone in the room. Meanwhile, Bulma's device signals the theft of the balls. They realize Chi-Chi took them and chase after her, but she throws a bomb at them. Suddenly, the real Chi-Chi appears and attacks the fake Chi-Chi who had stolen the balls. The fake Chi-Chi is revealed to be Mai, who had disguised herself as Chi-Chi. The real Chi-Chi and Mai fight until Goku arrives, unsure who is the real one. One of them asks for his help, leading him to mistakenly think she is the real Chi-Chi. He attacks the other Chi-Chi, injuring her, only to realize he hit the real one when he sees her hand wound. As he turns to attack Mai, she escapes. Later, Bulma and Roshi arrive at the scene and see Goku's severe injury. Master Roshi uses his power to heal him. At the same time, Bulma's device signals that the 7 balls have been gathered. Roshi realizes Piccolo has reached the Dragon Temple and is about to summon the dragon. They rush there and find Piccolo arranging the balls to summon the dragon Shenron. They arrive just in time and try to stop Piccolo, but they fail. Goku confronts Piccolo, threatening him and saying he will defeat him. Piccolo reveals that when the eclipse occurs, Goku will transform because he was originally a meteor that fell to Earth and turned into a child. Gohan raised him, but now Goku's time is up. Piccolo declares Goku's true name is Uzuru, and he is Piccolo's servant. Suddenly, the eclipse happens, and Goku transforms into a giant gorilla, attacking Bulma and her friend. Roshi seizes the opportunity, takes the lamp, and begins the ritual to trap Piccolo, but Piccolo strikes him hard, and Goku attacks Roshi, choking him. Roshi tells Goku he is not evil. He is Goku, the son of Master Gohan, and must control himself. But Goku continues choking him until Roshi dies. Goku then realizes what has happened, remembers his memories with Roshi, and feels great sorrow. He returns to his normal state and attacks Piccolo. Meanwhile, Bulma fights Mai, but Bulma's weapon runs out of bullets. Bulma tricks Mai by pretending to have a Dragon Ball, throws it, and it turns out to be a bomb that explodes. However, the bomb doesn't kill Mai. Before Mai can kill Bulma, Bulma's friend intervenes and kills Mai. Back to Goku, who gathers his strength and finally kills Piccolo after a tough battle. They gather the 7 balls, summoning the dragon Shenron. Goku wishes for Roshi to come back to life. The dragon grants his wish, and Roshi lives again. In the end, the dragon and the 7 balls disappear, and Goku successfully saves Earth from Piccolo. This marks the end of the movie. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell. Thanks.
Hey film fans, welcome to CinePro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters, our movie begins with Barnes and Paxton, who work as missionaries in the Church of the Last Jesus, which belongs to the Mormon sect. This is a religious sect founded by Joseph Smith in 1830 after his claims of prophecy and divine revelation. The sect's teachings were revealed through divine inspiration. We see them discussing their joining the church, and Paxton starts telling her story, saying, "I watched a daring movie, I don't remember where, about a boy and a girl in a relationship, and someone was filming them. I thought the girl's behavior was very shameful, and there was a force draining her soul from her body. Her dignity was entirely lost, and at that moment I thought, wow, this could be my life. I was convinced I could do something similar to make a lot of money. But then I reconsidered and realized how impactful this was. I felt like I found a path to faith because we have souls that cannot be defiled. This is our divine composition." Barnes asks her, "Do you watch such movies?" She replies, "Of course not. I've never done that, contrary to what you might think." Barnes reassures her, saying, "It's okay, by the way." Paxton insists she doesn't do that and asks, "You haven't told me your opinion on this matter." Barnes realizes she's asking about her opinion on daring movies and says, "No, I meant to ask how you found the path to faith that led you to this sect." Barnes responds, "I don't remember because I never thought about it." Paxton says, "It doesn't matter. The important thing is that you're convinced we're right." Barnes seems hesitant and not entirely convinced, but decides not to speak. They continue walking to reach the house of someone who contacted their church, expressing interest in learning more about their sect. The road appears difficult, but they are convinced it's worth it. Paxton notices a group of girls taking pictures in the street and seems to admire them, finding their behavior charming. The girls approach them and ask to take pictures with Paxton. She agrees immediately and appears happy, but suddenly the girls mock her and bully her. A while later, they reach Reed's house. Paxton still seems upset about the girls' behavior and asks Barnes, "Why do people see me as weird?" Barnes replies, "It doesn't matter how people see you. What matters is that you're truly beautiful." They reach the door of the house and start preparing how to introduce themselves. At that moment, a storm and heavy rain begin. Reed opens the door and welcomes them. They introduce themselves, and Paxton says they were nearby and decided to come to talk to him because they heard he was interested in learning more about the Church of the Last Jesus. Barnes takes a booklet out of her bag and tells him it contains information that might be useful to him. He says he already has a similar book but doesn't mind having another. Paxton begins speaking quickly, as if reciting something she memorized. Reed suggests they come inside because it's raining. Barnes feels embarrassed and asks if he has a roommate roommate because they can't enter his house if he's alone. He says he doesn't have a roommate but does have a wife inside. He invites them in and asks if they like pie because his wife is baking one now. He excuses himself to bring the food. As they enter, they start looking around the house. They notice a picture of Reed's wife, and Barnes notices a butterfly trapped inside the house. At this moment, Reed returns with a candle and a soft drink. He tells them his wife is shy, but the pie will be ready soon. Barnes insists that his wife should be in the same room with them. He reassures her that she will come out soon and says it's good for a person to be religious. Paxton laughs and says, "Our role here is done." Barnes starts discussing faith, expressing her belief that faith fades over time. Paxton tries to use a gentle approach to discuss the sect, asking, "Are you ready for the path chosen for you?" Reed says, "It's very important for a person to find the faith they can embrace as the true religion." He explains that he has been searching and always asking, "What is the true religion?" Paxton interrupts and says, "The great Reverend always tells us that priority goes to those who ask a lot of questions and show curiosity, which is good because Joseph Smith was curious. He joined several sects before discovering none of them suited him, so he founded this sect." Reed responds, "As far as I know, Joseph was visited by an angel named Moroni, who brought him tablets made of gold inscribed with writings, which were translated into the sect's holy book. He brings out the book he keeps, surprising Paxton because he has read more than them. She asks him how he feels after reading the book. At that moment, Barnes says, "I'm starting to smell the pie." Reed asks, "What do you think the pie is made of?" Paxton guesses, "Blueberry pie." He tells her she guessed correctly. He then asks Barnes how her father died and whether she tried to communicate with him in the afterlife or saw any signs. She becomes upset and says no. She starts touching an old scar on her arm. Reed notices her sadness and apologizes for reminding her of her father. After a while, part of the house's electricity goes out due to the rain. Reed apologizes, explaining that the house is old and affected by the weather. He begins telling them about his long journey to find the true and only religion. When he senses he's pressuring them with his words, Barnes asks about his wife and requests to meet her. She appears anxious and insists on meeting his wife. Reed tells them his wife is ready and wants to meet them. He asks them to follow him inside. At this moment, Barnes pretends to receive a call from the Relief Society, claiming they need them urgently. Reed goes inside, leaving them alone. They decide to take the opportunity to sneak out, but they discover the door is locked. They try multiple times to open it, but fail. They search for any exit, but find all the windows are too small to escape through. They contact their church to ask for help, but there is no mobile network coverage, and they suspect it's because of the storm. At that moment, they try to reassure each other that everything will be fine, but then the electricity cuts off completely. They decide to check the paths Red came through and enter the library room, where they meet Red. Barnes tells him, "We've taken up a lot of your time, and we really enjoyed talking with you, but we just received a call, and we need to leave immediately." Red responds, of course, I won't hold you up any longer," adding, "It's a shame. We were just about to start talking." He asks them to put on their jackets and discovers that he searched their pockets, took Barnes' bike key, and left it in Paxton's pocket. Barnes asks him to help them and open the door because it's stuck. He assures them that the door is actually open. Paxton tells him she tried to open it but couldn't. He explains that the doors operate on a timer and that when they started talking, time slipped away and the door closed automatically. He says, "If you're determined to leave, you can exit through the back door. This increases their anxiety." Barnes asks, "So you can't open the door we came in through?" He replies, "Unfortunately, the door won't open until morning." Paxton pleads with him to let them out. He apologizes but insists they can exit through the other door and assures them it's safe. Barnes questions why there would be a door on a timer, to which he says he understands their concern and reassures them they can leave through the other door. He tells them to take their time and make the decision that suits them best. He adds, "I want you to know that I didn't pressure you, and there was no need to make up an excuse to leave, claiming you received a call." Barnes insists, "Believe me, it's not just an excuse. We really did receive a call and need to leave." Red then points out that they probably didn't realize when they entered that the house is made of metal. Barnes asks what he means, and he explains that the metal blocks mobile network signals, which is why they didn't receive any calls. He adds, "It's no problem. I just wanted to clarify that you don't need to make up excuses to leave. You can go straight away." Barnes asks which door will take them out. He tells them to choose their preferred door. They become frustrated because they obviously don't know which door leads out. Paxton suggests he call his wife to come greet them and guide them to the exit. He agrees, but asks them one question first. "Are you convinced my wife is in the house, despite all the evidence to the contrary?" He points out that the candle they saw earlier wasn't lit. There was no oven, and no one was baking a pie, implying they were looking for a lie because he is an old man. Barnes says they should just take the back door, but he insists they stay and opens the doors in front of them. They discover they are entering the basement, which is very dark. At this moment, they realize they are late for the time they were supposed to return. Red tells Barnes, "You must realize we're starting to feel a chill." He advises them to leave because the abbot knows they're here. Paxton mentions that someone else saw them entering, and Red responds that they've strayed far from their original purpose. Paxton accuses him of lying to them, and he asks if they want his help. They are surprised by his words, look at each other, and think for a moment. He tells them to choose their preferred door to leave, disbelief and explains that he said this because it's something they need to think about carefully to make the right decision. He asks them again if they want his help. Barnes says, of course. He approaches her, stands by the door behind her, and says, it's a simple choice, but it can't be made lightly. You need to think carefully and then decide. He leaves them to change the record, and Paxton takes the opportunity to write on her phone screen to Barnes, let's run. At that moment, Red returns and asks if they've heard this song before. Paxton replies, definitely not, because you just played it now. He tells them, I think you've heard it more than once, but now let's return to our main discussion. He asks if they believe in doctrines. Barnes responds, of course we believe in God. He says, all right, there are three main monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. These are known as the Big Three. He begins to explain his perspective, saying that Judaism is the original version, Christianity is the most widespread, and Islam is the newest and most popular. He asks them to give him the Book of Mormon, which they don't have, and says they'll return to it later. He explains that Mormonism appeared 800 years later and compares it to a regionally popular game in America. He tells them that all religions are reiterations of the same source because they all share events and characters, but present different meanings and perspectives. He says Judaism has fewer followers because it doesn't have missionaries like them, who knock on people's doors to sit with them and sell an unproductive idea. He tells them he has an idea he wants to share and sell, and they will market it. He turns off the lights and begins showing them pictures and paintings, expressing his objections to sacred texts. Meanwhile, Jordan is looking for Barnes and Paxton, asking about them in the houses they were supposed to visit. The scene returns to Red, explaining his perspective, saying he doesn't believe in these narratives. He turns on the lights and asks if they are afraid. He admits he is also afraid, but can say it out loud. He writes faith on one door, saying that if there is a God, he must be watching us when we make mistakes, which is terrifying to him. He writes disbelief on the other door, saying the alternative is that we are just ants on a rock floating in cosmic space with no purpose, but we hope to achieve eternal life, which he also finds terrifying. He tells them that since they are believers and trust Jordan, the 15th president of the church, they should use their faith to choose the right door between disbelief and faith. He believes all religions are fabricated, just like the church they represent, as he doesn't believe in any sacredness. He leaves them and exits. Barnes begins gathering the books scattered on the floor and exits. She tells him she wants to know what will happen before choosing a door. He replies that he can't answer her. She has to make a choice. Paxton tells him he's discussing many important things, which proves his intelligence because he managed to convince them they don't need to learn anymore. She decides to choose the door of disbelief to leave, heading towards the marked door to exit. She tries to convince Barnes to stay with her, and it becomes clear that they must follow his instructions. Barnes assures her that he won't let them leave because he hasn't admitted what he wants from them. It appears she is improving and wants to confirm something specific based on their choice of the door they will open. She says to him, you think this is just a game? What is it that you want to confirm based on their choice of the door they will open? Barnes responds to Reed, do you think this is just a game? What were you looking for, and what did you find? If you're thinking correctly, then what matters now is what we believe in. The long lecture you gave with all the examples you used was just a way to attack our beliefs. You just want to convince us that the story of Christ isn't true. I didn't think my perspective aligned with disbelief and faith because I feel the examples you gave ignored many important things. She tells him, that's why I don't think it's important what I believe in. She asks Paxton if she believes in the existence of God, and Paxton replies, of course yes. She asks them to be sincere and honest in their faith and let God decide what happens to them when they choose the door of safety. She opens the door and steps in, with Paxton following behind her. Reed thanks her for her guidance and words. When they go down, Reed observes them, and Paxton asks him if he won't come with them. He ignores her and shuts the door, leaving them in complete darkness. Barnes decides to use the phone to navigate through the darkness and reassures Paxton, asking her to move slowly. They encounter another door, open it, and enter a dark, frightening room with a dilapidated ceiling leaking rainwater. Barnes starts looking for an exit, and fear becomes evident on Paxton's face as she worries they might remain in this room forever. Barnes tells her, this man is very clever. He knew someone would come looking for us, so he forced us to change our location to kill us. She tries to climb on the chair and table in the room to reach the window, and suggests to Paxton that if he tries to engage with them again, they should talk to him and make him think. She believes they might not be able to physically threaten him, but could threaten him intellectually. She reaches the edge of the window and discovers it's sealed with iron. She quickly comes down when they hear his footsteps. They return everything to its place and cover the fallen wood from the ceiling. She gives Paxton a sharp object and tells her if anything happens, she should stab him in the neck because he is focused on and watching her all the time. She tells her they should have a secret code word between them. If she says it, she should stab him immediately. At that moment, the door opens slowly, and a barefoot woman with her face covered and holding a lamp enters. She places a pie on the table, takes a few steps back, and clasps her hands behind her back. She sits silently and displays strange behavior. Meanwhile, they hear the song Reed was playing earlier, as if it were coming from a primitive microphone. Reed starts speaking to them through the phone phone and is asked by Barnes who the woman is. He tells her, "This is my prophet." They hear the woman muttering strange words and moving toward them. Reed tells them, "I invited you here today because I performed a miracle. This miracle is the greatest proof that all other religions are false. I found it an opportunity to document and witness the truth of this miracle." At that moment, the woman removes the cover from her face and starts eating the pie in a bizarre manner. Reed tells them the pie contains ingredients from poisonous plants and that the prophet with them will die from eating it. After a while, they will witness the miracle because she will come back to life. At that moment, the strange being with Paxton and Barnes shows signs of distress and her head falls onto the pie. Reed asks them to check her pulse and insists they follow his instructions to determine whether her heart is still beating or has stopped. He asks them to lift her head to confirm. Paxton places her hand on the woman's neck and is terrified to discover she's still alive, but Reed demands they admit she is dead. Out of fear, they lie and tell him she is dead, even though she isn't. He then asks them to confirm if she is breathing or not. They tell him she isn't breathing. He tells them to wait a few minutes and watch her return to life, saying she will breathe again in her second life. They become increasingly frightened. At that moment, the doorbell rings. Reed decides to go see who is at the door and moves quickly. They try to look under the door and agree to scream so whoever is at the main door can hear them. Reed returns and blocks the room door to prevent their voices from reaching outside. He steps out and it turns out to be Jordan at the door. Jordan asks him about the two girls, but Reed lies, saying he hasn't had any visitors in days. Meanwhile, Barnes suggests they pull the carpet to reach the matches and start a fire to attract the attention of whoever is at the door. At the same time, Jordan questions Reed about how no one came when he was the one who contacted the church to inquire about them. Reed reassures him that no one visited and suggests he use his phone to call the police. Jordan thanks him and says he will search elsewhere, convinced they aren't far. Reed returns, not noticing they are pulling the carpet. They carefully continue their plan, managing to reach the matchbox, but unfortunately, it's too big to fit under the door. Barnes tries to take a few matchsticks from it. At that moment, Reed re-enters, and they fear he might see them. The doorbell rings again, so he leaves once more. Jordan appears to have returned to ask Reed more questions, suspecting him. Reed quickly heads to the door, and Paxton notices the woman's head moving slightly, just as they had left it. This unnerves her, but Barnes insists they leave her as she is. Paxton pleads for them to help her, but they try to focus on their escape. They attempt to light the matchsticks by striking them against the wall. Meanwhile, Jordan asks Reed an important question about whether he has a book like the one he took from Paxton when they first arrived. Reed denies having such a book and promises to give it to Jordan to read. Jordan places the book down and leaves. Paxton and Barnes continue trying to light a matchstick. Paxton notices the woman moving from her spot, which heightens her fear. Barnes finally manages to light a matchstick, and as the light illuminates the room, they are horrified to see the strange woman standing right behind Paxton. The matchstick falls from their hands and extinguishes. The lady starts talking to them in strange, incomprehensible words. He leaves and tells her, "Thank you for going to the afterlife and returning." He informs her that he recorded her prophecy in the text of the rituals. He returns to Paxton and Barnes and sees them trying to light the match. He takes it from them, lights it easily, and asks them to recount their testimony of what happened with new precision so he can record it. He assures them that if they didn't see anything unfamiliar to them, they shouldn't speak. Barnes tries to object, but he pressures them. Paxton begins to say, "I saw the miracle when I returned from death." She said she met an angel and felt her soul separating from her body. Reed told her, "What do you think about experiencing being a miracle, dying and returning to life?" Barnes said, "I understand that you've been doing this since the beginning of the day to make our deaths happen at our own request." She confirms that what she saw wasn't a miracle. It was just a magic trick. This was the secret code between her and Paxton. She starts to get excited to leave, pulling an envelope from her pocket. She tries to discuss more with Barnes to distract him. After a while, Paxton makes a decision. She stands behind Reed and tries to stab him. She's shocked when he pulls something from his pocket and slits Barnes's throat. Paxton quickly escapes, trying to scream for help and break the door, but she fails. She returns to the room and sees Reed sitting beside Barnes's corpse, saying, "Come on, wake up." But he tells Paxton that it's clear something is wrong, and unfortunately, her colleague will not return to life. He cuts her arm where the old wound was and extracts a metal capsule. He tells Paxton that her colleague will not return to life because she is programmed and not real. She asks him to explain because she doesn't understand. He tries to convince her that her friend isn't real and won't return, but if she tries death, she will return because she is human. She tells him that the chip he extracted is just a tool for filling the load and has nothing to do with any programming. She tells him she doesn't believe in the miracle she saw about the prophecy or anything else. At first, she says she believes him, but later she doesn't because she suspects he tampered with the devices. She tells him that when the bell rang, he knew they would watch the door. When they returned, he was certain the woman wasn't in the same position they left her in. This was evidence that something else happened, and someone else sat in her place. They realized that the last thing the woman said when she claimed she returned from death was not real. It was an attempt to inform them that the miracle wasn't real. He told her this means the room must have a secret door. He tries to prove prove there are no doors or exits in the room, but she discovers that the water dripping from the ceiling has been falling for a long time, and the room hasn't filled with water. She moves the table and discovers the secret door beneath it. He tells her, based on her theory, there must be a corpse below to confirm her hypothesis. She decides to go down to find out the truth, and because it's the only exit, he tells her not to enter the room unless she's ready to discover the real religion. She decides to descend, and when she does, she finds a corpse and walks through the corridor leading from one door to another. The last door has a lock. She retrieves the key he left in his jacket pocket, opens it, and sees cages with sick-looking women imprisoned inside. She exits and asks him, "What is the true religion?" She tells him, "When we entered, you greeted us and left us alone, hiding our wheels so no one searching for us would find them. You deliberately left the keys in my pocket to prove I reached here because of your choice, not my decision to descend. All of this happened to convince me that religion is control." He tells her, "Exactly. Religion is a system of control." She hears the suffering of one of the women Reed imprisoned and tries to comfort her. He tells her, "She doesn't need your help because this is the place she chose." She tells him, "But you killed the woman who was with us." He says, "No, I didn't kill her. She chose to eat the poisoned pie." He points to one of the imprisoned women and deliberately cuts her finger. Paxton collapses and asks him, "Why are you doing this?" He tells her, "I do this because these are your choices. I predicted every decision you made today because I understand how you think." As he approaches her, she seizes the opportunity and stabs him in the neck, running quickly to the office room with the painting of the layers of hell from Dante's Divine Comedy. She opens the second door, which leads her back to the same room where she was with her colleague. Reed arrives and stabs her with the tool he has. He asks her to pray for him. She tells him, "Praying won't help now, but it's nice that you think of someone better than you and ask them to pray." She begins to pray. At that moment, Reed approaches her crying, and the miracle happens. Barnes rises and hits him on the head with a wooden stick, killing him. She loses consciousness again. Paxton escapes and tries to find the exit through the house model in Reed's office. She notices the house is built like a maze. In the end, she manages to escape through the window and calls the church for help. She notices the butterfly that was imprisoned with them in the house escaped with her. The movie ends. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an update.
Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. Our movie begins with a failed and unemployed artist named Suzuki. One day, while sitting with his friends in the office, he hears news about a dog biting a girl out of hunger. His friend Inga jokes with Suzuki, saying, "After hearing this news, my respect for you has increased because when you're hungry, you don't bite us." They all laugh at him. At that moment, the news anchor corrects the story, saying that it was the girl who bit the dog, not the other way around. That's when they start suspecting that something strange is happening. Suzuki says to Inga, "See, I told you the dog was innocent. I'm leaving before you bite me." When he gets home, he finds his wife, Kate, upset with him because he's unemployed. He takes out his old rifle to look at it, and Kate argues with him, telling him to sell the rifle to pay the rent. He responds, "If I sell it, how will I protect you?" He then takes his drawings to sell them to a famous magazine, but unfortunately, they don't like them. By chance, he meets an old friend named Jung, who, despite being a failed student at the institute, managed to get a job at that magazine. Suzuki feels that life is crushing him, and everything is going wrong. When he returns home, he finds his wife packing his belongings to set them on fire. She tells him, "I've told you 1,000 times drawing doesn't pay the bills. You should find a job." She kicks him out of the apartment and locks herself inside. He spends the entire night on the street, feeling miserable and unsure of what to do. He notices a person next to him acting strangely, but doesn't pay much attention. The next day, while sitting with his friends in the office, they hear the news anchor talking about a new virus with flu-like symptoms. Shortly after, one of their friends starts feeling unwell and leaves. Exhausted, Suzuki falls asleep at his desk until nighttime. He wakes up to a call from his wife, who tries to make amends and invites him back home. The next day, he arrives and knocks on the door, but she doesn't answer. He looks through the peephole and is shocked to see her acting strangely, crawling on her hands and feet. Suddenly, she opens the door and attacks him. He tries to get her back inside the apartment, but she attempts to bite him, ends up biting the door instead, and her teeth fall out. Suzuki is in shock and doesn't understand what's happening. The problem escalates when she attacks him and bites his hand. He pushes her onto a metal object which kills her. He grabs his rifle, collects his belongings, and leaves. On his way, he encounters an injured woman who is bleeding. He also sees military helicopters everywhere, which terrifies him even more. He goes to the office where he usually meets his friends and is shocked to find Jung covered in blood. He quietly enters to understand what's going on and sees someone infected with the virus with a knife stuck in their stomach. He panics and is scared. Jung hits the infected person on the head with a candlestick, killing them. Jung finishes off the infected person and kills them. Suzuki asks, what is happening in the world? Jung explains that it's a virus transmitted through blood. Suzuki checks his wife's bite mark and realizes he was lucky her teeth fell out before she could bite him properly. While talking to Jung, he notices a wound on his leg. Jung begins transforming into a zombie, but kills himself before fully turning. Suzuki flees the scene. He finds zombies everywhere in the city. He sees a police officer and asks for help, only to realize the officer is also a zombie, but a car hits the zombie, killing him. Suzuki runs like crazy through the streets. By chance, he witnesses an accident and shouts, "Someone call an ambulance." When the ambulance arrives, he regrets it. Later, he sees a taxi driver sleeping in his car. Suzuki wakes him up saying, "Wake up, man. The city is chaos." As he opens the door, a girl named Tiko appears, asking for his help. At that moment, they see a zombie staring at them, but it seems the zombie is busy with an important phone call and doesn't attack. Another person joins them, and they all leave the area together. Suzuki discovers that the new person is an important government official. When Suzuki asks him the time, the official's body starts transforming, and blood begins dripping from his eyes. He asks for a tissue, and the driver, unaware of the transformation, hands him one. The official bites the driver's hand and attacks Suzuki, but Suzuki manages to escape. A car runs over the zombie. As they continue, the driver starts transforming into a zombie and drives at full speed. Suzuki tries to protect Teiko by pulling her close. The driver attempts to bite them, but his seatbelt prevents him. Suddenly, the car crashes. After a while, Suzuki and Teiko regain consciousness and find themselves unharmed. They check the internet for information about the virus and discover that it dies in extremely high altitudes. They see Mount Fuji in the distance and decide to head towards it. Along the way, they find an empty house, enter it, and spend the night there. They get to know each other better, and Teiko tells Suzuki that his name means hero in Japanese. She tells him, "You truly are a hero because you saved me." They slept until the next day. By chance, Suzuki notices a bite mark on Tiko's neck and is shocked. He distances himself and asks her about it. She explains that a child bit her 2 days ago, but nothing has happened to her since. She cries and begs him to kill her if necessary. He reassures her, saying, "I won't leave you. Even if you turn into a zombie, I'll turn with you." After a while, they go out to secure the area, but Tiko runs ahead. Suzuki shouts, "Stay behind me." After some time, she starts feeling unwell and sits down. Suddenly, she begins transforming into a zombie. He runs away. By chance, he meets a worker and asks for help. The worker agrees, but turns out to be infected and tries to bite him. Teiko arrives just in time to save Suzuki, showing that part of her body is still human. They continue walking through the forest. Tiko becomes silent, and when she falls asleep, Suzuki carries her. Along the way, they find a moving car. Suzuki cleverly places Tiko inside the cart, and it takes them to a large, empty mall. In the mall, Suzuki finds an expensive jacket and tries it on. Suddenly, the shop owner appears, attacks him, and tries to bite it. At that moment, a girl named Sue arrives with a group of young people fighting zombies. They ask Suzuki about Tiko, and he tells them she's sleeping. They suspect she's not injured, because there's no way a zombie would sleep. Then he ties her injured eye, so that when she wakes up, they wouldn't suspect she's a zombie. Anyway, they kill as many zombies as they can, helped by a group of women standing on a high building making noise to attract the zombies towards them. The guys take advantage of the distraction and escape. Suzuki carries Kato on his shoulder, refusing to leave her behind. They reach the rooftop of the mall, where a group of survivors is living. They are welcomed by Seng, the group's leader, who tells them the place is safe because it has food, water, and everything they need. At night, a girl named Slow, who rescued him, gets to know him. She asks if Tiko is his daughter. He explains that he met her by chance, and they escape together. She admires him, saying he's brave for not abandoning her. The next day, Suzuki talks to a man named Leo, who tells him that zombies don't forget their past lives. For example, a certain zombie jumps and lands on its head, suggesting it was a swimming coach. Another zombie, a woman, tries to open a door because she loved shopping before turning into a zombie. Suzuki points out another zombie crawling like a spider and asks about it, but Leo says he doesn't know later. Seng gathers the group to show them a map of the mall, pointing out a food storage area because their supplies will run out in 2 days. He asks Suzuki for his gun, but Suzuki refuses. Seng gets angry, accusing him of prioritizing the girl over the group's safety. Meanwhile, another group led by Gang tries to take Tiko. Suzuki hears the commotion, escapes, and tries to save her. Tiko uses her powers to fend off some attackers, but the cloth covering her eye falls off, revealing she's a zombie. Seng shoots her in the head with an arrow, killing her. They gang up on Suzuki, beat him, and take his gun. However, the two groups turn on each other, taking Seng's weapon. Gang declares himself the new leader, but Seng mocks him. Later, Suzuki meets Slow, who tells him that Tiko is still alive because she's half human, half zombie. They set out to the mall to transport food supplies, taking Suzuki with them. When they reach the storage area, the lights turn on automatically, attracting zombies. Loud music suddenly plays, drawing more zombies to them. It turns out Seng orchestrated this to take revenge. Suzuki hides in a closet, but the music draws all the nearby zombies into the mall. A particularly dangerous zombie with a smashed head enters the mall differently, running at full speed and jumping in from the roof. It kills all the remaining survivors, but Slow hides with Tiko, reporting over the radio radio that zombies have breached the roof. Suzuki hears this and panics, vowing to save them. He finds his rifle and heads out. Slow and Tico descend from the roof, which is overrun with zombies. They keep moving until they find Suzuki, who also encounters Gang, claiming he's uninfected. Shortly after, Leo appears, followed by zombies. They get trapped and must face the zombies to survive. A fierce zombie attacks them, but Suzuki shoots it in the stomach. The second shot misses. With his last bullet on the ground, the zombie lunges at him. Suzuki grabs the bull and finishes it off. Tico and Slow are impressed with his bravery, calling him a hero. Suddenly, the dangerous zombie appears, and Suzuki panics because his gun is out of bullets. The zombie attacks, but Suzuki hits it with the back of his gun, smashing its head. Then, they take a car and head towards the mountain. See you in the next movie. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you. Welcome to Screen Recap, your shortcut to movie magic. We break down the best films in minutes, keeping it fast, fun, and packed with all the essentials. Hit subscribe and stay updated with the ultimate movie recaps. The film begins years after the end of the world due to the war on oil and all types of fuel, and the number of people in the world became very small, and the entire planet remains in a state of chaos. People formed gangs in order to survive, and with the passage of time, each gang became closed and lived with itself, and people became backward and remained like animals. And there is an officer named Max decided to live alone in the desert, so he wouldn't be backward like the rest of the people. He faced anyone who stood in his way alone. One day, while driving his car, he noticed that Joe's gang was chasing him. Max tried to escape from them, but they were many and managed to overturn his car. Max got out of the car alive, but Joe's men captured him, tied him up, shaved his hair, and tattooed the gang's mark on his body. This tattoo was proof that Max had a special role for Joe's gang, and they captured him to extract the blood they wanted from him. Later, we see Joe, the gang leader and ruler of the Citadel City. Joe was a tyrant and dictator, hoarding all the city's resources for himself. He addressed the people, announcing that he would send a team to get fuel from Gastown and bullets from Bullet Farm. The Empress Furiosa would lead the team, and these were the men who would accompany her on the mission. Joe had a large amount of water in his fortress, which he withheld from the people. He opened the water tanks for the people, who rushed to get as much water as they could until Joe closed the supply after a few minutes. People fought over the water, and then Furiosa's team set off for Gastown and Bullet Farm. However, on the way, Furiosa suddenly veered off course, taking a different path without informing anyone, and the team was forced to follow her, confused. When one of her team members asked her where they were going, she didn't answer and ordered him to follow her. In Joe's fortress, someone noticed her change of direction and informed Joe that Furiosa had deviated from the path and was heading towards another gang. Joe, not understanding why Furiosa was going to the gang that had issues with them, began to suspect something was wrong. He checked on his wives and found them missing, realizing Furiosa had taken them with her. Joe became furious and ordered all his men to go after them to bring back his wives. Among Joe's men was a man named Nux, who used Max as his blood bag. Though Nux was injured, he decided to join the chase as one of Joe's most loyal men. All of Joe's men set off, and Nux had Max tied and placed at the front of his car, with a hose transferring Max's blood. Joe was with them, leading the gang. Joe's gang fired flares into the sky, signaling for help and support from the leaders of Gastown and Bullet Farm. Furiosa's team saw the smoke in the sky and asked her what was happening, but she refused to say anything. Meanwhile, in the desert, a gang called the Buzzards saw Furiosa's team and decided to attack them. They approached, and when Furiosa's team saw them, they asked her what to do. Furiosa told them to drive fast and escape, keeping their weapons ready. But one of Furiosa's vehicles fell into a trap, and the Buzzards attacked the rest of Furiosa's team on motorcycles, trying to cut the tires of Furiosa's vehicle. However, Furiosa's men attacked the vehicle with spears, destroying it. Furiosa joined her men and took out the second vehicle, thinking they were safe. But Joe's team was closing in, and more Buzzard vehicles appeared, leading to a big confrontation between the two gangs. Joe's team managed to fend them off and eliminate them. Nux caught up to Furiosa's vehicle, but found themselves entering a sandstorm. A man from Furiosa's team realized she was betraying Joe, confronted her, and tried to strangle her, forcing her to knock him off the vehicle. Nux was very close and wanted to shoot Furiosa, but she cornered him with the truck, causing Nux's car tires to burst. Nux ordered one of his colleagues to untie Max and tie him to the back of the car, but Max managed to knock the man down before he could free himself. He was about to enter Nux's car, but Nux had locked all the windows. They entered the sandstorm with Max holding onto the car with all his strength. Furiosa dealt with the vehicle beside her, and Nux saw his friends dying in the storm. Furiosa changed direction, but Nux kept a close eye on her, deciding to sacrifice himself to kill Furiosa. He filled his car with gasoline chain, and Max noticed what he was doing, breaking the car's glass to stop the madman. As they fought, Furiosa hit them with the truck, destroying the car completely. Afterward, Max regained consciousness. Finding himself unharmed, he removed the hose that was drawing his blood, but was still chained to Nux with chains. He went to Nux's body to break his arm and free himself, but the gun was broken and wouldn't fire. Max saw Furiosa's truck in the distance, carrying Joe's 5 wives and a water hose. Max raised his weapon at them, asking for some water. One of them stepped forward and gave him the hose. Max drank, and water splashed on Nux, reviving him. Max asked for pliers to cut the chain, and Joe's wife did so. Max didn't notice Furiosa attacking him, stealing his gun and trying to shoot him, but the gun didn't work. They fought, but Joe's wives pulled Max by his chain. Furiosa went to get a gun from the truck, but Nux revived and jumped on her. Max fought Furiosa again, eventually overpowering her and pinning her down, ensuring his gun was working. They all saw Joe's team approaching. Nux was excited, telling Max that Joe would reward them for capturing the wives alive, but Max seemed uninterested in the talk, ordering Nux to cut the chain. Once free, Max knocked Nux out, got into the truck alone, and drove away quickly before Joe's men arrived. However, the truck had a unique lock that only Furiosa knew, causing it to stop. Furiosa approached, asking Max to let her drive so they could all escape. Max had no choice but to agree, allowing Furiosa to drive, and Joe's wives got in, with Max keeping his gun on them to stay cautious. Furiosa continued her journey to the green place she initially intended to reach, a habitable area suitable for living and farming, inhabited only by women. As they moved, Nux sneaked into the truck, hiding until the right moment to attack. On the way, the truck's speed decreased, prompting Max to check what was wrong and find the issue with the tires, which he then fixed. At the same time, Nux sneaks to the front of the truck and tries to choke Furiosa. The wives come and hit him, throwing him off the truck completely. Furiosa was approaching an area called the Citadel, and she tells Max that she made a deal with the gang there to smuggle and worship them off the road in exchange for giving them a tank of fuel. But since Joe's gang is chasing them, she tells Max to hide and be ready for any betrayal that might happen to them. She instructs him with the truck's code, and Furiosa reaches the Citadel area, gets off the truck, and loudly tells the gang she'll leave the fuel tank in the desert and asks them to throw rocks behind her after she leaves to block the road. Joe's gang appears on motorcycles, but Furiosa sees Joe's gang approaching, realizing she won't make it through the negotiations. She screams at Max to drive the truck quickly while she runs and escapes from the gunfire. The Citadel gang blows up the rocks and blocks the path so Joe's gang can't enter their territory. They then chase Furiosa's truck with motorcycles to take the fuel, angry that Furiosa brought Joe's gang there. They throw a bomb at the front of the truck while Joe boards the massive vehicle to break through the rocks, taking his best men with him. Nux joins them and tells Joe he was with Furiosa in the truck, so Joe lets Nux ride with him. Joe gives his men an order, telling them to blow up the rocks when he crosses to the other side and catch up with him. Indeed, Joe's giant vehicle manages to pass. On the other side, Joe's gang jumps onto Furiosa's truck, throwing bombs at it, causing fire to increase at the front. But Furiosa finds a solution and moves the truck's net down to pour a large amount of sand on the truck to extinguish the fire. Furiosa and Max start shooting at the gang, and Furiosa alone manages to kill several of them. But the gang doesn't give up. One lights a dynamite stick to throw it into the driver's cabin, but Furiosa shoots him in the face. The man ends up under the truck and dies, and the dynamite explodes at the end of the truck with a fuel tank. After dealing with the Citadel gang, Joe reaches them and chases them. Joe pulls out his weapon to shoot Furiosa, but Joe's wives open the door and defend Furiosa. Furiosa takes advantage of the situation and kills one of Joe's men. Joe gives a gun to Nux, ordering him to sneak into the truck and kill Furiosa. Nux executes the order, but the chain on his hand trips him. Joe loses hope in him as Joe speeds up and jumps over a rock, taking the lead. One of Joe's men, named Rictus, shoots a spear on Max's steering wheel, pulling it, causing Max's arm to get stuck and in pain. Joe's favorite wife, Angharad, gets out of the vehicle and cuts the chain. Furiosa installs a tool to replace the truck's steering wheel, but a rock suddenly appears in front of them, and they crash into it. Angharad was about to get hit, but survives. As she tries to get back into the truck, her feet slip, and she hangs onto the door, unable to get inside as the door closes, and she falls. Joe was about to run her over, but saves himself, and his vehicle flips over. Joe's wives believed Angharad was still alive and begged Max to go back to save her, but he refuses, saying she's already dead. Furiosa decides they must continue their journey to the green place. Joe holds his favorite wife's body, crying over her because she was pregnant. Some of Joe's men on motorcycles catch up, and Joe orders them to advance. Furiosa's truck engine starts smoking from the heat, so they stop the truck for Furiosa to fix the engine. By chance, she sees Joe's men on motorcycles and kills them. They continue their journey, and one of Joe's wives goes to the back of the truck to keep watch, but finds Nux there, upset and sad. She asks him what's wrong, and he says Joe will never forgive him for disappointing him, and because the person who was giving him blood is driving the truck with his wives. She tries to calm him down, sits next to him, and talks to him, deciding not to tell anyone that Nux is there. Max keeps driving the truck until nightfall when the truck gets stuck in the mud, and they are delayed. Realizing they have reached a swampy area, Max and his companions decide to take advantage of the situation and move on, continuing their journey. Two of Joe's vehicles explode from bombs, and the rest of the convoy gets stuck in the mud. The leader of the Bullet Farm was with them, pretending he hadn't yet entered any battle. He decides to advance with his men alone because his vehicle wasn't stuck in the mud, as it had a tank-like structure. On the other side, Max's truck gets stuck again, and they need to find a solution before their enemies reach them. The leader of the bullet farm approaches them, so Max decides to shoot at him, firing 2 bullets but missing. Furiosa fires the last bullet, hitting the bullet farm leader's spotlight, blinding him. Nux wants to help Furiosa, and Max comes out of hiding and tells them he has an idea to move the truck by tying it to a tree to help it get out of the mud. Meanwhile, the bullet farm leader decides to shoot at them madly, not caring if Joe's wives die. Joe's wives run in fear while Nux drives the truck after tying it to the tree, and his plan succeeds, getting the truck out of the mud with the tree's help. But they face another problem as the engine temperature rises. Max decides to stop and set a trap for the bullet farm leader, while the rest cool down the engine. Max advances alone while Furiosa cools the engine. She sees explosions in the dark, unsure if Max is alive or dead. She raises her gun, aiming at the figure coming from the darkness, but it's Max, holding the bullet farm leader's head and his men's. He brings a steering wheel and supplies that were with the bullet farm leader, and they move on with the truck, getting out of the muddy swamps. They pass through the abandoned area with strange creatures and dead trees. The next morning, they reach the green place, but find nothing but a woman standing on a tower asking for help. Max suspects it's a trap, but Furiosa steps out and loudly says she lived in the green place when she was young and was kidnapped with her mother long ago. When the woman on the tower hears this, she calls her companions, and they all turn out to be women. They recognize Furiosa, and Furiosa tells them how Joe kidnapped her and her mother, saying, "She cut all that distances so I can return to live in the Green Valley." But the women tell her that she has already passed by the Green Valley on her way, and it turns out that the Green Valley is actually the swamp where they were trapped because it became uninhabitable, evidenced by the dead trees they saw. Furiosa is shocked by what she heard and didn't know what to do or where to go, and she spends the whole day thinking of a solution. In the end, she decides they should head east and look for a place with fertile soil for farming, settle there, and live. However, they will leave the truck here and ride the motorcycles. She tells Max to come with them if he wants, but Max refuses, saying he will go his own way. Furiosa decides to let him be, and Furiosa and all the women set off on the motorcycles. Max watches them from afar until they disappear from his sight. Suddenly, Max gets a dangerous idea and decides to catch up with Furiosa quickly. Indeed, he catches up with her and stops them. Max tells them that continuing to travel in the desert is very dangerous, and there's no guarantee they will find anything. Therefore, the best solution is to return to Joe's citadel. City Max's plan is for them to return by the same route they came from, lure Joe and his men into the mud swamps, fight Joe's men, and kill them. Then, they will take over the Citadel City. Although it's a very dangerous plan, everyone likes the idea and agrees. They all return to the truck. We then go to Joe and his men after they left the mud swamps and were standing and resting from the chase. Joe sees Furiosa's truck heading towards the Citadel City, so he immediately orders his men to move and chase them. One of Joe's cars races ahead and reaches the truck, and a fierce battle ensues. A soldier from Joe's army siphons the gasoline hoses and blows them again, as this will increase the car's speed. Nux climbs onto the truck and performs the same move, a move that was risky for the car's engine, but Furiosa doesn't want Joe's men to overtake her. Eventually, the women with her kill the car driver next to them. What happens now is that Furiosa's first car engine breaks down, and the second engine is about to explode, so Furiosa's car slows down. Max orders Nux to fix the first engine, and Max goes to disconnect the fuel tank. But at the same time, Joe's soldiers get very close and throw several spears at the back of the truck, slowing it down significantly. Max risks his life to get rid of these spears. Joe's cars approaching find the women facing them and shoot at them. Meanwhile, Max was getting rid of all the spears and was returning to his seat, but Joe's soldiers approach him while hanging on poles and jump onto the truck. Max fights them while another soldier throws a smoke grenade into the driver's cabin and wraps a rope around Furiosa's neck. A woman comes out and hits that soldier, saving Furiosa. However, the woman doesn't notice the person behind her who kills her with a saw. Furiosa gets rid of the smoke grenade and kills anyone who approaches the driver's cabin. Max was still alive and opposing Joe's soldiers, but he gets hit by an arrow in his hand. Max falls and loses consciousness. Joe's men were much more numerous, and one of them kidnaps one of Joe's wives. No one can stop him, and Max regains consciousness and returns to the fight, and someone was about to kill him with a saw. Max falls, but Furiosa saves him at the last moment. Another soldier sneaks onto the truck and stabs Furiosa, and Furiosa barely fights back while carrying Max with her metal arm. Joe's wives get rid of the soldier who did that. Nux manages to fix the first engine and gets out of it, shooting Max to the car next to them. Max engages with the car's occupants, throws a soldier out, and kicks the Gastown leader unconscious, taking over his truck completely. Joe passes by Max to kill him, but Max uses the gas leader as a shield, taking the bullet himself. Joe's wives tell Max that Furiosa is seriously injured, so Max jumps from the truck, letting it explode in Joe's convoy. Before reaching Furiosa's truck, a soldier grabs him and tries to throw him onto the road, but Max miraculously gets rid of him. Max jumps onto another of Joe's cars, and the car with Joe advances in front of Furiosa's truck. Joe tries to disable Furiosa's truck, so Furiosa lets Nux take over the driving and heads towards Joe's car. Joe's son, Rictus, was about to fight her, but Max arrives and hits Rictus on the head. Rictus throws Max with one hand, and Furiosa engages with that soldier while Rictus keeps hitting Max. One of the women distracts Rictus. Max takes advantage of the opportunity and hits him with a pipe on the head, causing him to lose consciousness. Nux crashes into Joe's car from behind, causing the soldier fighting Furiosa to fall, and Furiosa advances towards Joe, reaching him through the window. Joe. She ties her metal arm to Joe's mask and throws both into the tires, causing Joe's face to explode because he can't live without the mask. Thus, a large part of Furiosa and Max's plan succeeds. Joe's wives all get out of the truck and ride with Max and Furiosa. But at this time, Rictus frees himself and removes Furiosa's truck engine to throw it onto Joe's car. However, Nux sacrifices himself so they can live, flipping himself with the truck and blocking the road for the rest of Joe's convoy. Although the mission succeeded, not everything was good because Furiosa's condition was bad and she was dying from blood loss. Max decides to transfer blood to her. After a while, they reach the Citadel City and Max shows the guards Joe's body. Everyone celebrates because they finally got rid of the oppressive ruler, and they open the water for the people to use as they wish. Appointing a new leader, Max walks among the people and leaves the city to continue his journey and adventure. With that, we reach the end of the movie. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. Welcome to Screen Recap, your shortcut to movie magic. We break down the best films in minutes, keeping it fast, fun, and packed with all the essentials. Hit subscribe and stay updated with the ultimate movie recaps. This terrifying story begins on an empty farm far from the city. A family is riding in an old, worn-out car. They are fleeing from cities where the zombie virus has spread. When they arrive at the house in the middle of the desert, the house reminds Francis of a painful memory from his past. He gets out of the car first to make sure there's no danger inside the house. But the house is dark, dilapidated, and in poor condition. Upstairs, he hears a strange sound, and when he enters, he finds his father's corpse on the bed. It's clear that his father was bitten on the arm and decided to end his own life before turning into a zombie. Francis takes his father's gun and steps out into the living room. He tries to collect himself, but hears his mother apologizing. His mother appears in a terrifying, half-dead state, apologizing as her body splits in two. Only the upper half of her body drags itself forward with her intestines exposed, pleading with her son to forgive her. Francis has no choice but to end her suffering with a gun. Afterward, he buries his father and mother on the farm in front of his children and wife. Night falls, and Francis struggles to sleep. There is noticeable tension in his relationship with his wife, Iris. They find a moment of relief when they discover clean water, but Iris decides to return to the house to avoid direct interaction with him. Joshua asks his mother if they will bring their belongings inside, but she tells him to leave the first aid kit in the kitchen, so it will be within reach in case of emergencies. Alone, she lights a cigarette. Francis approaches, trying to talk to her, but it's an awkward moment. Joshua suggests they check out a nearby storage shed to see if there's anything useful. Lucas, their younger son, is scared of encountering zombies and is terrified. Francis reassures him and promises to return quickly, telling him to stay with his wife. Joshua notices the watch on his father's wrist, the one that belonged to Joshua's grandfather. Armed with their only gun, they enter the shed. Francis calls out to the person who works there, but there's no response. Joshua finds a lantern, and they try to open the chicken coop. When the boy looks up, he sees the worker hanging from the ceiling. He too had decided to end his life in his own way, but they notice that the keys they need are hanging from the corpse's pants. Francis forces his son to retrieve the keys. The boy is scared, but approaches the corpse to get the keys, but the body falls on top of him. His father decides to let him handle the situation on his own. The boy manages to grab the keys, but he is terrified. He wipes every spot the corpse touched him. Francis gives his son Lucas a sugar cane and tells him to chew on it. The boy is amazed by its taste, but his wife is visibly upset. She asks Francis to come with her for a moment, and they step aside. She tells him she feels the shed is tied to the roots of his current trauma. Francis clearly feels uneasy and has difficulty focusing. His wife tries to help him, but he pulls away at the first opportunity. In the basement, they find drawings on the wreckage that reveal Francis had been abused by his father. At night, they all sit down to eat and give thanks to God before starting their meal. It's clear this is new for the family. Iris and Joshua exchange puzzled looks. Even Francis seems unsure of what to say. Lucas is still sipping on sugarcane juice, so his wife asks him to eat rice. He refuses until his father asks him to, and he complies. Joshua tries to turn on the radio they found, but he needs to eat first. Francis compliments the simple meal Iris prepared. She is shocked and doesn't know how to respond. She asks him what they will eat tomorrow. He reassures her that there's still food in the house, but she doesn't want to stay any longer. Francis tells her it's safer here with clean water and protection, and suggests they stay until they figure out what's happening outside. But Iris doesn't understand how they'll find out without electricity or a signal. She recalls the news advising survivors to head north to avoid the same fate as Francis's father. Joshua interrupts, saying his friend Alice wrote that she and her family are heading to the mountains. But his father isn't willing to go search for his son's friend. He thinks her family might still be up there, but his father says they're probably dead. It's clear Francis's relationship with each of his children is different. He's strict with Joshua, but always shows love to Lucas. After dinner, Joshua sits outside looking at pictures of his friend until his phone phone dies. Francis watches him from inside and his wife comes to criticize him for being harsh on their eldest son. At night, Francis is tormented by nightmares from his childhood. He has visions of his father locking him in the basement while he cries, begging him to stop. Iris senses his distress, manages to wake him, and offers him comfort during this difficult time. The next day, they agree the place is safe, but Iris insists they still need to leave. She tells him he's reliving these painful memories at night, and she doesn't want him to experience them again. Suddenly, he changes the subject, saying they're both responsible for the collapse of their marriage. In the end, he agrees to her plan to leave, and they decide to head north to find the mountain where Alice's family is hiding. Joshua says that Uncle Diego had the same idea, but Francis is surprised and asks him about it. His son explains that Diego had spoken to his mother before they left the city. Before leaving the city, Iris falls silent. Francis says he's not surprised. She explains that Diego just wanted to check on them, and that she had contacted him because Francis wasn't answering her calls. This shocks Francis, and he speeds up the car until they reach a bridge filled with corpses. He stops the car. Francis says there's no way to cross, but his wife suggests they could move some obstacles to get through. He warns her that if the bridge is blocked, there must be a reason. As he's about to turn back, Iris gets out of the car to inspect the area herself. She walks among the abandoned cars and corpses, but when she tries to move the fence, a zombie suddenly stirs, groaning and asking for her permission. The horrifying creature moves toward her, and her husband jumps out of the car to save her. His shot causes the zombie to fall, but also alerts other zombies. Their children begin honking the car horn to warn them. The noise attracts more zombies, and they start surrounding the car. The children are terrified, calling out to their parents, but with one shot, Francis draws the zombies toward himself. Iris returns to her children, but Francis runs out of bullets. When he sees a grenade on the ground, he grabs it and uses it to escape just in time. The family begins walking back to Francis's childhood home. When they arrive, Iris reflects that they've tried this idea before. She walks away. In the morning, Francis quietly leaves to return to the bridge and try to retrieve the car. Meanwhile, Iris tidies up the house and watches her children playing. When he returns, he lies and says the car is unusable. Francis heads to the basement with gasoline, determined to start the generator even with the painful memories that suffocate him. He finally managed to turn on the generator and now had a house with electricity and air conditioning. His wife was still unhappy. She warned him he was wasting fuel on this. He replied that he would only use the generator for special occasions. They managed to enjoy a rare moment together, something a little different. Iris tried to savor the happiness of her family, but she herself was on the verge of breaking down. Francis turned on the TV and began watching their wedding video. In it, Iris appeared anxious in every shot, smiling deeply in contrast to the bitterness she had slowly grown into. He moved closer to her and tried to seduce her, and together they succeeded in easing the long-standing tension between them. Meanwhile, Joshua, after charging his phone, was scrolling through pictures of his girlfriend. His younger brother came in, afraid of being alone. When Joshua yelled at him to leave, he reconsidered and allowed him to stay. Together, they looked at things and searched through family photos. Lucas noticed that Joshua resembled their uncle Diego. When they saw an old picture of their father, they noticed he had the same sad look in his eyes that their mother now had. Lucas said he felt like their mother was tired of him because all he saw from her was anger. Joshua tried to reassure him, saying that when people are upset, they take out their anger on those around them. Lucas then said maybe that's why their father was harsh with Joshua. His brother was shocked and recalled that their relationship had been tense even before all this started. Lucas said he hoped his parents would stop being upset and promised that they would be okay soon because they loved each other. In the morning, Iris told Francis he looked like a farmer, as if he were adapting to rural life. Francis admitted that all the problems in their marriage were his fault. He regretted all the pain he had caused her and admitted they wouldn't be able to return to their old life. He reflected on how all the previous worries disappeared when the pandemic began, and that he believed they had been given a second chance to come back together. When they went down for breakfast, their children noticed a change in their father's attitude. He had become more affectionate and offered them fried eggs, but when he went to get the eggs from the coop, he discovered that a dog had eaten the chickens. Francis tried to chase the dog away, but it bit his hand before running off. Iris, who had nursing skills, treated his wound, but the tension returned between them. Later, we see Joshua standing in the middle of the street, trying to pick up a signal on the radio. He managed to catch part of a message about a camp and called out to his parents. Anxiously, Francis said Joshua might have misheard and asked his wife and son to verify the information while he checked something else. At dinner, Iris couldn't stop thinking about the possibility that they were close to the camp signal. She suggested they search for the car to see if it would start. Francis, skeptical, asked how they would cross the blocked bridge and reminded her they needed another route and a working car to travel hundreds of miles toward an unknown camp. Iris insisted it was worth trying and said they might find a doctor to help with things like the dog bite. Francis asked her if she really understood what was happening outside and reminded her of the danger at the bridge and what had happened to Lucas's schoolmates. She became upset and told him not to talk about that in front of the children so as not to scare them further. Lucas, still young, just wanted to live. At that moment, she felt the need to end the conversation and walked away, upset. In another scene, we see Francis working on the veranda when Joshua came and asked if they could turn on the generator, listen to music, or even try to pick up a signal. His father explained that the record player didn't have a radio, but Joshua insisted and asked what was happening outside. Francis reminded him of what he had done to save him and his younger brother, then challenged him, asking if he was ready to do the same for them. Joshua replied firmly that he would, so Francis took him outside outside, set up a target, and handed him the gun. The boy held it with trembling hands. After a moment of hesitation, he fired the shot. The sound startled Iris and Lucas, and painful memories flooded Francis. When he composed himself, he gave his son more specific instructions on how to handle the weapon. Iris arrived quickly and asked what was happening, noticing that he was pressuring their son too much. But under the pressure, the boy hit the target and then broke down crying. The sound attracted the first zombie, who began murmuring its final prayers. It was soon joined by many others from its congregation. The zombies started moving toward the family, and the group decided to retreat into the house. With no more bullets to defend themselves, they had no choice but to flee. They managed to take shelter inside the house, and the zombies stood outside, repeating the last words they had spoken in life. Suddenly, the zombies turned their attention to the locked door, causing Francis to collapse in despair, convinced he had condemned his family to a brutal fate. When the zombies began breaking down the door, the family prepared for the end. They heard the sound of car horns from the street and the noise of a crash that distracted the zombies toward a mysterious car. By morning, parts of the house were damaged. Francis went outside to assess the damage. The chicken coop was destroyed and the eggs were broken. Iris approached him and asked what they would do now. Later, we see Francis arriving at a watermill and finding his brother Diego, the owner of the car that had saved them. Diego said his wife Hannah had been bitten and fell silent when the topic of his son came up. Francis asked why he had come, and Diego replied that he was heading north but wanted to say goodbye to their parents. When Francis told him they were dead, Diego accepted the news and said he hadn't expected to return home anyway. He said the house was doomed and asked how long they could survive on the farm, but Francis insisted he and his family were fine. Without protest, Diego apologized for the past and admitted he had come to take them north with him, not believing Francis could take care of himself and his family so well. Diego's words upset Francis, who pointed the gun at his brother and forced him to leave, telling him quickly that there was nothing there for him. Diego didn't resist and agreed to go, but before leaving, Diego gave Francis a map, saying he could use it if they changed their minds and decided to find him. Alone, Francis considered destroying the map. When he returned home, he brought some supplies his brother had left behind and lied to his wife again, saying he had been delayed helping someone. Later, we see Francis barricading all the windows in the house. Joshua quietly asked his mother how she was feeling. She said she was just tired. When he looked at her, he noticed they had the same smile. Inside, Lucas tried to entertain himself by swatting flies. When he went down to the basement, he quickly realized there was a zombie there, and his mother appeared. She followed him to reassure him. She told him that the zombie wouldn't be able to get in from there. She noticed that the zombie was weak and said that once it disappeared, they would be able to go outside again. Francis overheard the entire conversation and went out to look for another zombie. He encountered one, which surprised him by asking him to end its life. The zombie knelt and repeated the same sentence. Hesitantly, Francis raised the scythe and granted its wish. Afterward, he returned with the bloodied weapon, soaked his shirt, and called out to his wife, holding the severed head, proud that he had to kill the fast zombie that almost bit him. This scene frightened the children, and their reaction angered Iris, who demanded that Francis control himself, but he warned her that there were many zombies nearby and that it was very dangerous outside. He insisted that no one should think about leaving the house. Later in their ordeal, it was revealed that Francis hadn't destroyed the map. In fact, he had hidden it to prevent his family from considering leaving the house. A while later, he gathered the whole family and surprised them with a decorated Christmas tree to distract them from the grim reality outside. However, Iris began to feel uneasy again. Francis continued to act as if they were living a normal life, ignoring the fact that the world outside was falling apart. Lucas, with the innocence of a child, asked for a bicycle for Christmas. When it was Joshua's turn, he said he wanted a map. Iris, surprised, asked him why he wanted a map, and Joshua told her to ask Francis. He revealed that he had found a map in his father's room. Francis pretended not to understand and promised to get him a map for the next Christmas. When it was Francis's turn, he said he wanted another child, convinced that it was the right time to grow the family. As he spoke, he explained that they still had a chance to live a normal life, but Iris replied that she wasn't willing to live like that. She thought there was nothing normal about their lives and insisted that she wanted to leave now. She pointed out that they were barely surviving on rice and told him he couldn't hide the reality they were facing. The monsters outside had become weaker, and she was confident she could escape them. She argued that someone had to go out soon to find food. Francis then told the children that their mother was planning to abandon them and that he wasn't sure she would come back, as she had never truly cared about them and had wanted to leave for a long time. Francis revealed that Iris had considered leaving even before the outbreak, which deeply shocked the children. He took advantage of the moment to force her to talk about it. Crying, Iris began to explain to her children that her decision wasn't about them. She simply wasn't happy in her life and wanted a fresh start to become a better person and mother. But Francis accused her of lying, suggesting that she just wanted to leave to find someone specific. His accusations angered Joshua, who told his father not to talk to his mother like that. When Francis responded harshly, Iris intervened and said she just wanted to get away from him. She couldn't imagine living with him any longer. She was convinced there was still time to save her children. She then demanded that he hand over the map, but he remained silent. He eventually pulled it out of his pocket and burned it in front of the entire family. She tried to take it from him, and in the struggle, she hit him. Children saw that they were trapped with an unstable man. The next day, Francis went outside, and Iris noticed Lucas reading. She sat beside him and read to him the moral of the story about a liar trying to get the entire village's attention. Lucas observed that the boy in the story was just a liar. Meanwhile, Francis heard gunshots and strange noises, but no one saw him. He returned to the house carrying a tree trunk and a chain, determined to protect his family from the zombies he claimed were surrounding the house. But Joshua didn't understand the logic, as no zombies had been seen for weeks. He suspected that Francis just wanted to keep them trapped. He accused his father of abandoning the car and destroying the map, behaving like his own parents when they used to lock him up as a child. His son's words affected him, and in a fit of rage, he slapped him. The clock struck his cheek as well, and he began to insult him harshly, justifying his actions as merely trying to protect them from the outside. Suddenly, they heard a knock on the door and someone asking for help. The person introduced himself as a wounded soldier with nowhere to go. Joshua saw him through the window, and before his father could shoot, he opened the door. The man showed no signs of being bitten and said he was from Delta Camp. After a day and a half, he explained that his unit had been attacked by zombies in the city and that he was the only survivor. Francis insisted that there were many zombies outside, but the soldier replied that it depended on the area. The soldier explained that he had only survived thanks to a stranger who told him about this house before being attacked by zombies. Iris realized that her husband had lied to her about Diego. Francis had no comment and ordered the soldier to leave, but the children begged him to help, so he decided to lock the soldier in the basement for safety. At night, Joshua woke his mother and told her he planned to search for his uncle Diego. His idea stemmed from the soldier's comment that something might have happened to Diego, but Joshua was upset with his father and admitted that he felt his father didn't see him at all. He revealed that he knew Francis wasn't his biological father, but wished Francis would understand that he would always consider him his father. Iris told him that he couldn't leave Lucas alone. Joshua asked her to tell his brother to be brave. In the morning, Iris and Lucas were having breakfast with the soldier, who was respectful to the entire family, even Francis. When Francis noticed Joshua was missing and saw the doors open, he realized he had left. He returned to the kitchen and killed the innocent soldier in front of his son. He demanded that Iris not leave him. Then he violently struck her with a hammer. Yet when she woke up, she found herself locked in the basement with Lucas. When she saw her son unharmed, she began calling for Francis, who was sitting at the table calmly eating next to the soldier's corpse. He noticed the dog had returned to the house. After a while, he opened the basement door and appeared wearing the soldier's uniform, holding a small piece of meat to feed them. But Iris stopped Lucas from touching the strange meat, which made Francis even angrier. He told them that when he was a child, his father would get angry if he didn't finish his food. As he spoke, Iris took the opportunity to hide a knife and pretended to agree with him, telling him she understood and that no one was waiting for her outside. He responded that he needed her too, but he took the knife she had hidden and said he couldn't trust her anymore. Iris lost hope and began searching for a way out. She managed to remove a wooden plank but fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Hours later, she woke up. Lucas asked her if they were going to die or if he would become like the boy in the story. Suddenly, Francis was startled by the sound of his son's scream. He ran to the basement to ask what was happening, but Iris seized the opportunity to stab him and lock him inside. She escaped with Lucas. Despite her efforts, her reality began to blur with painful memories. She returned to the house, gathered a few items, and removed the chains from the door. Francis screamed from the basement. When they stepped outside, they found Diego, who had become a zombie, eating the soldier's corpse. He kept repeating the word run, but it reached her. The commotion brought Francis back to the present. He tried to go out to help them. Iris tried to avoid the bite. Lucas distracted Diego, who grabbed him, but his mother pulled him away, fought Diego, and placed a chair between them. Francis came out of the basement just in time and took down his brother to save them. He blamed her for letting Diego into the house and putting the family in danger. He was about to attack her, but Lucas, with a trembling voice, said his uncle had bitten him. His mother tried to help him and took a sickle to stop the infection. Francis stood frozen. She prepared everything she needed to save her son from turning into a zombie. She told Francis to go get the car because the boy needed a blood transfusion from the hospital. Francis ran quickly across the farm until he reached the bridge, where he found Joshua struggling to breathe, only able to say his name. But his son thought he had turned into a zombie because of his appearance and was about to shoot him. He fell to his knees, trying to apologize, but there was nothing more he could do. He was forced to mourn his father's death. He returned to the car and went back home, finding Iris singing to her son in her arms, unaware that this was her son who had returned. And that's the end of the movie. See you in a new Welcome to Disney Cap, the magic of Disney recapped in minutes. From classic tales to new adventures, we bring you the highlights, fun, and all things Disney. Subscribe now and relive the magic with us. Our film begins in the city of Ohio in the year 2045 with Wade, who lives with his aunt in a world dominated by technology, especially virtual reality, which was invented by a man named Halliday. He managed to design a fully immersive virtual world where people only need to leave for eating or other basic necessities, allowing them to live their lives entirely in this virtual space, far from the real world and its problems. In this world, you can go anywhere you want while staying in one place. Halliday named his virtual reality the Oasis. It is a place limited only by the imagination of the individual, where anything is possible. Surfing 50-meter waves, skiing on the pyramids, or climbing Mount Everest with Batman. Once inside the Oasis, each person can customize their appearance. Wade, in his Oasis avatar, has made many friends, although he doesn't know them personally in the real world. He locates his friend Ake on a planet called Doom, the most dangerous planet in the Oasis and the easiest place to collect coins. On this planet, every player levels up by collecting more coins, which enhance their weapons and armor. Players can even spend these coins in the real world. However, if a player dies in the Oasis, they lose all their coins and have to start over from scratch, which can lead some players to despair or even contemplate suicide after losing all their progress. Halliday's advertisements are everywhere in the Oasis. The Oasis was invented in 2025 and became an instant success upon its release. It was co-founded by Halliday and Morrow, but Morrow stepped down from his shares years later, leaving Halliday as the sole ruler of the most powerful and advanced virtual world ever created. On January 7th, 2040, Halliday dies, and everything changes after his death, especially following the release of a video broadcast worldwide. In the video, Halliday announces a special surprise for all players, a hidden secret item within the Oasis. Whoever finds it will gain unique powers, all of Halliday's fortune, estimated at $500 million, and complete control over the Oasis. Halliday's avatar in the game, named Anorak, holds 3 keys that will help players find the hidden item. Each key is a reward for completing a challenging task, and after collecting all 3 keys, the player will be deemed worthy of accessing the secret item. The keys are hidden in unknown locations within the Oasis. The video ends, and players begin searching for the keys. For 5 years, no player manages to find the first key until one player finally discovers the gate leading to the first challenge, a seemingly unwinnable car race. Most players give up trying to win the race, except for a few who become known as the Hunters, still determined to succeed despite 5 years of failure. Among them are Wade, as his avatar Parzival, and his friend Ake. Also in the competition is a group called the Sixers, who work for a company called IOI, a rival of Halliday's company, specializing in innovative electronic industries. IOI is the second largest company in the field, and is determined to claim Halliday's fortune and the Oasis to become #1. Nolan, the head of IOI, is focused on taking over the Oasis and turning it into a purely commercial venture. Returning to the race, players are free to design their own vehicles, whether cars, motorcycles, or custom creations. Wade, as Parzival, meets his friend Ake at the race, and the competition begins. Wade faces all the dangers Halliday designed to make the race nearly impossible to complete. During the race, Wade notices a famous player in the Oasis named Artemis and becomes intrigued by her. He follows her movements while trying to avoid his car being destroyed and collects coins from the wreckage around him to refuel his vehicle. The race ends with everyone losing except Wade and Artemis. Thanks to Wade's extensive experience in the game, he knows that the final stage of the race involves being attacked by King Kong at the finish line. To save Artemis from destruction, Wade pulls her off her vehicle just as King Kong destroys it. As usual, they both give up on winning the race. Wade offers to have his friend Ake repair Artemis's vehicle, and they all head to Ake's workshop. Ake, known for being the best at repairing vehicles, fixes Artemis's ride and leaves her alone with Wade. Wade talks to Artemis about the game, his dreams of winning the ultimate prize, and how he prefers playing solo rather than being part of a team like her. He admits he's afraid of losing and starting over, which is why he finds it nearly impossible to win the race. He believes a true hunter must win the prize before IOI does, as Nolan would turn the Oasis into nothing more than a commercial enterprise. After saying goodbye, Artemis leaves, and Wade logs out of the game, returning to the real world. In reality, Wade lives in poverty with his aunt, who is constantly being abused by her boyfriend. The boyfriend wastes all their money on the planet Doom, losing everything, leaving Wade stuck in a miserable life with no escape since his parents died when he was young. This motivates Wade to win in the Oasis and escape his dire circumstances. The next day, Wade heads to the Halliday Journals, a building that appeared in the Oasis after Halliday's death. It contains all of Halliday's life memories, accessible to players searching for clues to his puzzles. Wade becomes fixated on a particular memory of Halliday's life, where Halliday is seen talking to Morrow, his former partner. Halliday expresses his refusal to impose any rules on the Oasis, wanting it to remain a free society unlike the real world. He wishes he could go back to the days when the game was simple and enjoyable for all players. Wade focuses on Halliday's words about going backward and begins to understand the solution to the first challenge. Wade waits for the next race, prepares his car, and starts the race. While all the other cars move forward, Wade stays still for a moment before reversing. This action opens a hidden gate beneath the ground, allowing him to bypass the chaos of the race above. Wade watches as King Kong destroys the other cars and successfully reaches the finish line, winning the first challenge. He is greeted by Anorak, who congratulates him, awards him the first key, and presents him with a new riddle. In the second challenge, he earns 100,000 coins in his account and feels happy because he can buy anything he wants. He, along with his friend H, buys a special modern suit to wear in real life, which he also uses inside the Oasis. News about this reaches Nolan at his company, and he decides to enter the Oasis himself to confront Rock, the Oasis killer. Nolan asks Rock to eliminate Z, so he doesn't win any further further challenges. An agreement is made, allowing 5 players to win the challenges, and the first to win all 3 becomes the winner of Halliday's prize. Artemis becomes the second person to win the race after seeing Z return in his visible form. Then H wins because Z told him the way, followed by H's friends, Dido and Sho. The new clue for the next challenge is a riddle they must decipher. Z tries to solve the riddle by revisiting his memory archives to search for any helpful hints. Z becomes very famous as the first player to win the challenge, and all the players want to take pictures with him. He meets Artemis, who explains to him that he must disguise himself from now on since he has become a famous figure. Z and Artemis then search for anything related to Halliday's past. Z knows that the most painful part of Halliday's past was his love for Kira, whom he met only once before she married his friend Morrow. Despite his love for her, he never tried to win her heart due to his overwhelming shyness, which devastated him further when he learned of her death. This prompted him to create memories of her, except for one specific memory, the place where he talked to his friend Morrow about his only meeting with her. Since Z had memorized Halliday's memories, he bet the memory keeper that Kira was mentioned only once in those memories. He won the bet and was given a coin as a reward. Artemis suggests they continue brainstorming in the casino. H warns Z about Artemis, claiming she might deceive him, but Z chooses to trust her and goes to the casino. They meet there, and Rock's agent informs him that Z is at the location, planning to kill him as ordered by Nolan. Artemis explains to Z that the casino was the first place Halliday created after meeting Kira because she loved dancing and he did not. He built the entire casino in the Oasis to make up for what he lacked in real life. They deduce that the second key is in the casino. While dancing and strategizing, Z tells Artemis his real name is Wade. They dance together, but the Sixers attack the casino to kill Z. He uses a bomb that rewinds time by 60 seconds, allowing him to escape the attack. However, Rock gathers enough information to discover Z's real-life identity as Wade, the only person who recently purchased a modern suit. Nolan contacts Wade, offering him a job and promising to make the Oasis a better place if Wade hands over the secret artifact after finding it. Wade realizes Nolan's deceit and refuses the offer. Nolan then threatens to cause a small explosion at Wade's home, killing everyone inside. Wade disconnects the call and rushes to save his aunt before the explosion. Drones are seen attaching explosives to the pillars supporting Wade's apartment. The bombs detonate, collapsing the building and killing everyone inside. Wade returns to his Oasis headset to warn his friends to stay alert, but someone appears behind him, tranquilizes him, and kidnaps him. He wakes up in an abandoned place and recognizes Artemis by her voice. She explains that she had to kidnap him before IOI's men could find him, as they are now after her too. They must solve the next riddle quickly. Wade expresses his happiness at meeting Artemis in real life and confesses his admiration for her. Artemis recalls that Halliday's first outing with Kira was to watch the movie The Shining. They deduce that the solution lies in entering the same movie to find the key. Wade, Artemis, and their team head to the memory archives and enter the movie to search for the key. They come across an announcement for a dance party. They enter, but there seems to be no clear path forward until Artemis sees Kira dancing. She realizes she must approach Kira, who holds the key. Artemis jumps onto the skeletons dancing around her to reach Kira and finally asks her to dance, fulfilling Kira's wish that Halliday had never fulfilled during their outing. Everything around Artemis disappears, and Anorak appears to congratulate her on completing the second challenge, giving her a clue for the third challenge. Z also wins the challenge, keeping them in the lead. Nolan learns that Z is still alive and orders his men to find and eliminate him. Meanwhile, Wade and Artemis work on solving Halliday's third riddle, but IOI's men attack their location. Artemis is captured, but Wade escapes and meets a girl who warns him not to trust anyone in the Oasis. Her words remind him of H's advice. Wade discovers that H is actually a girl in real life. She joins him, along with Dido and Sho, to rescue Artemis. The Sixers have already reached the next challenge on Planet Doom, which involves playing old Atari games. To win, one must complete a game, but with thousands of possibilities, it is difficult to succeed. Nolan participates in the game, while Rock creates a strong shield to prevent anyone from entering the third challenge location. Nolan exits the Oasis to return to the real world, only to find that Wade and Dido have infiltrated his company. They threaten to kill him unless he reveals Artemis's exact location. Nolan discloses her location, and Wade leaves. However, it turns out that Nolan is still in the Oasis, believing he is in the real world due to H hacking his system. In reality, Wade and his team are in H's workshop. They successfully free Artemis from captivity. She tells them she is trying to destroy the shield to allow them to enter the third challenge. At the same time, Nolan realizes he is inside the Oasis and that Z had been deceiving him and can exit into the real world. He rushes to the cell where Artemis is held but does not find her because she has returned to Nolan's power to seize the virtual reality device. She manages to disable the protective shield but cannot do anything except recite the spell to break the shield. Nolan comes after her and she escapes his power. Wade re-enters the Oasis and addresses all the players, telling them about Nolan's plan to take over the Oasis. He asks all the players to join him on Planet Doom to defeat IOI with him. They all appear standing by his side, trying to destroy the shield. After escaping Nolan's grip, Artemis disguises herself as one of the characters and successfully approaches the shield to recite the spell to destroy it completely, allowing all the players to attack the Sixers. A war ensues between the players and the Sixers. Nolan transforms into Godzilla and continues killing in the Oasis until Dido uses uses his strongest weapon, allowing him to choose any character for 2 minutes. He chooses a powerful character and fights Godzilla, distracting him from Artemis and Z until Dato dies. Artemis succeeds in approaching Godzilla, who is controlled by Nolan, and throws a bomb at him, killing Godzilla. Before Nolan dies, he realizes Artemis is in his building disguised and leaves his room to search for her among his soldiers. Z knows Artemis is in trouble and that Nolan will kill her if he captures her, so he kills her in the Oasis to force her to exit into the real world and find them in reality. He tells her their location so she can head there. Z and Sho are forced to face an entire army alone, and Z throws his last bomb, destroying them all in one strike. They reach the Atari, a game no one has succeeded in winning. Before Z tries to play, Nolan appears behind him and offers him $50 million one last time in exchange for the final key, but Z refuses to hand over the fate of the Oasis to him. Nolan uses a bomb similar to a nuclear bomb, destroying everyone on Planet Doom, killing all the players except Z, who remains alone in the Oasis. He takes out the coin given to him by the librarian and finds it gives him an extra life. The coin disappears into the air, leaving Z alone to face the third challenge, which is broadcast live to the entire world. Meanwhile, Artemis escapes IOI and heads to the address Z gave her, meeting Ake and riding with her. Nolan continues, searching for Wade and his team until he locates their vehicle and heads towards them. Z plays Halliday's favorite game and wins the third key, completing all 3 challenges. A large vault appears before him, and he uses the 3 keys to unlock it, meeting Halliday inside, who gives him a pen to sign the contract to own the Oasis. At the same time, in reality, Nolan's guard reaches Wade's vehicle and attacks them, trying to stop Wade from reaching the Oasis. Wade fights back, throwing her out of the vehicle. In the Oasis, Z refuses to sign the contract, saying it was a mistake for Halliday's friend to sign it in the past, relinquishing the Oasis, and he would not repeat his friend's mistake. The entire place transforms around him, and Halliday appears in his true form in the Oasis, telling Z he truly deserves to win. The final challenge was to refuse to sign the contract. Halliday gives him the golden egg, granting him ownership of the Oasis and all its wealth, with everything broadcast live to the world. Nolan attempts to kill Wade before he can claim the egg, but is too late and is arrested for his crimes and murder attempts. Morrow, Halliday's old friend, appears and acts as Wade's lawyer to secure the Oasis's ownership. Wade decides not to run the Oasis alone, but with his friends. Morrow reveals he was closer to Wade than expected, handing him a coin that Wade realizes was given to him by Morrow, disguised as the librarian in the Oasis. The coin granted him an extra life. Wade and his friends appoint Morrow as an advisor in the Oasis for his expertise. After Nolan's arrest, IOI is completely shut down, and Wade decides to close the Oasis on Tuesdays and Thursdays to give people a chance to live their real lives and discover that reality can be better than virtual reality. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, make sure to subscribe for more awesome content. Thanks for watching. Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The story begins with a group of people on a sea voyage, including Shan Hong and his daughter Huan. It happens to be Huan's birthday, and her father gives her a gift, a walkie-talkie. However, she doesn't like the gift and seems upset about the trip altogether. While the people are enjoying the view of the sea, they spot a group of dolphins heading toward them, seemingly fleeing from a massive creature. At the same time, Huan finds a book containing information about snakes. The book mentions that baby snakes, upon hatching, will attach themselves to the first living creature they see if their mother is not around. Suddenly, a giant creature attacks them, capsizing the boat in the middle of the sea. The waves wash the people ashore on an island. Hong begins searching for his daughter, calling her on the walkie-talkie. He eventually finds her, but a massive, terrifying snake appears behind her. The snake starts attacking people, swallowing anyone in its path in a horrifying scene. Hong tries to reach his daughter, but in a heartbreaking moment, the snake swallows Huan right before his eyes. Hong is left standing in shock and grief, unable to save her. The snake then disappears into the forest. Shortly after, Hong hears his daughter's voice through the walkie-talkie, indicating she is still alive, though the signal is weak and distorted. A group of people volunteers to venture into the forest to search for her, including a tough-looking man named Yu Ji. Another group stays on the shore, unwilling to follow the snake. Suddenly, something resembling a frog's tongue attacks one of them, dragging the person into the forest. Meanwhile, the snake reaches its nest and regurgitates the people it swallowed, leaving them there to gather more victims. Some of the regurgitated people are still alive, including Huan. The captain explores the area to find an escape route, but discovers that the place is too deep and escape seems impossible. To make matters worse, they find snake eggs. Realizing they are meant to be the first meal for the baby snakes, one of them decides to break the eggs before they hatch, believing it will kill the snakes. Unfortunately, the eggs hatch, and the baby snakes emerge unharmed. Everyone runs and hides behind a rock. One injured woman, unable to move, is killed by one of the snakes. Back with Hong and his group, they have been searching for the missing people for a long time. Yuji cuts a tree branch, which oozes black liquid. When someone lights a match to smoke a cigarette and tosses it, the liquid ignites. They realize the tree's sap is flammable. At this point, Hong begins hallucinating, seeing the people around him laughing and telling him his daughter is dead and he won't find her. A snake appears, wrapping around his neck and attacking him, but Yuji snaps him out of it. At the same time, the tree branches start wrapping around the group, trying to kill them. They manage to save themselves, except for one person. Meanwhile, the group in the snake's nest kills one of the baby snakes. One of them tries to negotiate with another person, offering to help them escape in exchange for something they want. The person dismisses the offer, saying money is meaningless now. They argue until a woman named Suchi reassures them they will escape alive. The man looks at her, puzzled by her confidence. Back with Hong's group, they are cutting tree branches to defend themselves when one of them goes to drink water. Suddenly, a dense fog covers the area, and the person sees an animal skeleton. Realizing a new danger is imminent, a ferocious fish leaps out, killing and eating the person's face. More of these fish emerge from the fog, attacking the group. The group tries to fend them off, but fails as the fish tear into them. They keep running until the fog clears, causing the fish to fall lifeless to the ground. After a while, a liquid falls on one of them, but when he looks up, he finds a big worm on the tree, and Tongue of the Frog appears and pulls this worm. And then the huge frog appears to them and starts chasing the whole group, and unfortunately, he succeeds in catching one of them, so they quickly return to catch him. And when one of them tried to cut the tongue of the frog, a dangerous liquid came out of it and burned this person's face, so one of them immediately throws a branch into the frog's eye. So the frog is forced to leave the man and succeeds in making them run away from him. But the frog still doesn't leave them alone and chases them to take revenge for his damaged eye. But suddenly the snake appears and swallows the frog immediately. After he finishes with the frog, he starts attacking Hong's group, and the snake attacks two of them and tries to eat them. But Joffa tries to distract him and actually succeeds in doing so, and the snake runs after them again. Then the snake goes to the person whose face was disfigured, and at that time this person was begging the snake not to eat him, but the snake still didn't care and ate him in seconds. After the snake finished, he went back to circle around the rest of them, and when the group first saw a pond, they jumped into it, but he couldn't see them because the snake sees through body heat, so he couldn't see anything, so he left them and walked. We go back again. When the group in the snake's nest heard the sound of the snake coming, they decided to sleep with the dead people so that the snake wouldn't finish them off as well. When the snake came, it threw away the people it had gathered, but it discovered that one of its children was dead. It got very angry and went out to look for the one who killed its son. At the same time, the video started to break and the little snake started to come out. The whole group ran away and left Joan alone. A little snake approached her. At once, she remembered what she had read in the book, which is that if little snakes haven't seen their mother yet, they get attached to the first living creature they see. At that moment, they try to tame the snake so that they can be its friend. She actually succeeded and knew that she could do this. After that, she introduced it to her aunt, Shaw. The snake didn't attack them, but it went to attack the rest. They had finally found a place to escape from, but a person came out and pushed them all away and ran away on his own. We then returned to Hong's group, who discovered a laboratory in the middle of the jungle. There, they learned that this island and the creatures on it are genetically modified beings. The scientists conducting these experiments lost control of the situation. The creatures grew to an enormous size and wiped out everyone who was on the island. At that moment, we learned that Hugh was an officer in the rescue unit. He figures out a way to activate the transmitter in the laboratory and tries to send a distress signal to the rescue team. For the first time, Hope appears. At the same time, the man who managed to escape from the snake's nest enters and tells them that he is the only survivor and that everyone in the nest has died. This shocks Hong, who starts screaming and crying. Later that night, Hugh talks to Hong and tells him that he understands how he feels because he went through the same experience 5 years ago when his wife and daughter died in a house fire. Ever since, he has blamed himself, thinking that if he had reached the house in time, none of that would have happened. He tells Hong that he must learn to forgive himself from now on. The next day, they hear the sound of a helicopter and become very happy, rushing outside. But Hong discovers that his daughter is still alive and is speaking to him through the radio, though her voice is unclear due to a weak signal. At that moment, the old man accuses the man who came from the snake's nest of lying because he claimed that everyone had died. When the liar realizes his secret is out, he runs away, but while running, he spots the helicopter and starts signaling to it. However, at the same moment, the snake appears, swallows the helicopter, and the old man manages to confront the liar again. But the liar strikes the old man and kills it. We then return to Hong, who is trying to locate his daughter through the surrounding sounds. Meanwhile, smaller snakes are attempting to attack them. At the same time, one of the snakes intervenes, trying to defend Hugh because it believes he is its mother. At that moment, Hong reaches them and lowers a tree branch to pull them up. But then the real mother of the snakes arrives and attacks Hong. Hugh intervenes, striking the snake in the eye, and finds a massive tree trunk entangled in the branches. He tries to cut the branches to make it fall on the snake. The snake was about to reach him, but Jovan managed to throw a tree branch into its eye. Then Hugh successfully drops the tree trunk on it. Meanwhile, the captain was helping the two girls climb up. They managed to save them, but unfortunately, the captain is killed by the snakes. Afterward, the group tries to escape the area, but Hugh stops them, saying they can't possibly outrun the snake. He tells them he will try to distract it so they can escape. Jovan also decides to join it. At that moment, the snake reappears and attacks Hugh. Hugh bravely uses an axe to cut its skin, but the snake's skin is strong and unaffected by his attacks. They come up with another idea. They lure it into the forest and decide to set it on fire using the black tree sap we saw at the beginning of the film. But the snake realizes their plan, escapes, and leaves them. Meanwhile, Hong bids farewell to his daughter and decides to return to help them. The same scene repeats itself. The snake appears appears behind his daughter and swallows her again. At that moment, Hong becomes enraged, attacks the snake, and tries to strike it, but the snake's skin is incredibly tough and unaffected by anything. As the snake closes in on him, ready to devour him, Hugh lights a fire to draw the snake's attention. The snake sees him and leaves Hong, chasing after Hugh. They finally manage to trap it in the black sap and set it on fire. The snake screams as its entire body is roasted. Afterward, it returns to Hong and dies in front of him. When the snake dies, they open its mouth and find the girl inside. The snake hadn't swallowed her. They pull her out and try to revive her. She eventually wakes up. Thus, they succeed in eliminating the most dangerous creature on the island. The movie ends here. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more.
Welcome to Recaply X, your movie recap in a flash. We bring the drama, the action, and the twists. In minutes, the movie begins in Ohio. Curtis looks at the massive cloud in the sky while standing in the rain, confused because instead of the rain being water, it appears to be like motor oil. But all of this turns out to be a dream, and the weather is actually beautiful. Later, Curtis has breakfast with his wife Samantha and his daughter Hannah, who has difficulty hearing, before heading off to work. Curtis works for a construction company while Samantha is a housewife who takes care of Hannah, but also sews items to sell at the Saturday market. In the afternoon, Samantha is at home with some friends who brought their kids over to play. One of them notices that Hannah is holding a dangerous piece of wood with nails in it, so Samantha rushes outside to take it away because shouting or warnings won't work due to Hannah's hearing impairment. Later, heavy rain forces the workers to stop their job, so they go for a drink at the bar. At home, Samantha teaches Hannah the sign for storm as they watch the rain through the window. After leaving the bar, Curtis gives his co-worker and close friend Duart a ride home, and they chat for a while. Duart says he's living a great life, but Curtis admits that life isn't always rosy. Their conversation is interrupted by Duart's wife, who indirectly asks him to come inside. Curtis checks on Hannah, and Samantha mentions that their daughter still struggles to connect with kids her age. The next day, Curtis takes out the trash to ensure Hannah doesn't touch anything dangerous. At that moment, a heavy cloud appears in the sky, and lightning suddenly strikes the ground. Curtis's dog, Red, starts barking uncontrollably. Curtis rushes to grab Hannah's hand, but the dog breaks free from its chain, attacks Curtis, and bites his arm. Curtis wakes up in his room, realizing it was another nightmare. At breakfast, Curtis can't stop thinking about the dreams that feel so real. When he sees Hannah playing with Red, he becomes anxious and separates her from the dog. When Samantha asks him about it, Curtis gets upset and leaves breakfast without eating. At work, Curtis remains distracted, constantly looking at his arm during the meeting because he still feels the pain of the bite. The manager, Jim, is upset about delays caused by the rain and wants the team to catch up on work that day. On the way to the job site, Curtis asks Duart to help him take some extra equipment. Later, Curtis takes a break and notices a flock of black birds flying strangely in the sky. He asks Duart if he finds it odd, but Duart doesn't see anything unusual. Due to the extra hours worked to make up for lost time, Curtis is late picking up Hannah from school. He also has to go without a shower. At school, they learn more about sign language for their children, and Curtis realizes he needs to practice more because he doesn't spend as much time with Hannah as Samantha does, so he doesn't know enough words. Later, it starts raining again, and Curtis rushes to get into the car with his daughter. The rain makes visibility difficult, and Curtis gets into a car accident. His head is bleeding, but Hannah is okay. At that moment, people appear outside the car and start breaking the windows. One man grabs Curtis while another kidnaps Hannah. Suddenly, Curtis wakes up screaming, realizing it was another nightmare. He goes downstairs, visibly shaken. Samantha notices and becomes concerned, but Curtis brushes it off as a cold. He tells her to take Hannah and go to the market. While Samantha is busy negotiating prices with customers, Curtis sets up a fence around the dog's kennel, using the extra equipment he took from work. He locks Red inside and apologizes to him. Curtis is supposed to take out the trash, but gets distracted by a storm shelter door. He searches for the key in an old jar, unlocks it, and goes inside, contemplating a new idea. That night, Samantha counts the money she earned at the market and adds it to their vacation savings. She asks Curtis why Red is locked outside, but he gives a vague and unclear answer. Samantha presses him for more, but Curtis avoids the question, instead focusing on the news, which reports a gas leak that affected a small family. This fuels Curtis's paranoia. The next day, Curtis finds Hannah watching the storm through the window. When he approaches, he's terrified to see a man standing outside, staring at them. He immediately grabs Hannah and runs to hide. The man tries to open the door, and the entire house begins begins to shake. Everything in the room starts floating in the air. Curtis feels like he can't breathe. Then everything crashes down and Curtis struggles to catch his breath. He wakes up from yet another nightmare, horrified to find that he wet the bed. When Samantha enters the room, Curtis covers the evidence with blankets. He asks her for the doctor's number. Samantha tries to comfort him, but Curtis snaps at her to stay away so she doesn't see what happened to the sheets. He quickly apologizes for his outburst, explaining that he's just tired. He asks her to go to church with Hannah while he stays home. After Samantha leaves, Curtis changes the sheets and washes it. Later, he takes Hannah to the library, distracting her with a children's book while he searches for information on mental illnesses. On their way home, they stop at the supermarket and buy a large number of canned goods, which makes them late for lunch with Samantha's family. They assume Curtis skipped church intentionally. In the afternoon, Curtis begins cleaning out the storm shelter and stocking it with canned goods in preparation for any emergency. He reads the books he borrowed from the library. Eventually, Curtis visits a doctor and explains that he hasn't been able to sleep for 4 days. At first, the doctor doesn't seem too concerned, so Curtis tells him about the nightmares, admitting that he wet the bed and still feels pain in his arm from the bite in his dream. The doctor prescribes him medication for a few days and recommends he see a psychiatrist in Columbus. Meanwhile, Samantha visits the insurance company to inquire about a hearing implant for Hannah. Fortunately, their request is approved, and the insurance will cover all the costs because Curtis's company has good insurance benefits. At the same time, Curtis goes to the pharmacy to pick up his medication and is surprised to find that he doesn't have to pay much due to the insurance. That evening, the family has dinner together to celebrate the good news, but Curtis doesn't mention the medication. Before bed, Samantha starts making vacation plans since they no longer have to worry about money. Curtis secretly takes his medication in the bathroom without anyone noticing. The next morning, Curtis wakes up feeling more comfortable. Samantha also notices that he looks like he's in good health. However, at work, Curtis still doesn't talk to Duarte about the appropriate amount of food for the shelter. Suddenly, he hears the sound of thunder in the clear sky and asks Duarte, who hears nothing. Curtis begins to worry and rushes to the garbage dump to empty his stomach while trying to deal with a panic attack. Curtis leaves work feeling like he can't breathe while driving, forcing him to stop the car to catch his breath and rest for a while. When he feels better, he notices a place selling containers and buys one to expand the shelter. After a while, he visits his mother, who is behaving strangely because she is taking excessive medication. It turns out she had paranoid schizophrenia, which started at the same age Curtis is now. Curtis worries that the same thing might happen to him, so he tries to ask her some questions, but she doesn't remember much about the past years. Later, Curtis calls the doctor to explain that he can't go to Columbus to see a psychiatrist and asks for an alternative. At night, he calculates how many days he needs to convert the new place into a shelter. In the morning, he goes to the bank and takes out a home improvement loan without telling his wife, ignoring the employee's warnings. Then, at work, Curtis asks Duarte to help him take some equipment from work to build his shelter, which is against the rules. Duarte agrees to help but becomes concerned and asks Curtis if he's okay, to which Curtis assures him he is. After work, Curtis visits a local therapist and shares all the theories he has built based on his research. She explains that she is just a therapist and cannot diagnose or prescribe medication but can talk to him to help him get through his crisis. He begins to talk about his mother who left the family one day and his father who raised him and his brother. Later, they found her eating from a garbage dump and had to place her in a public hospital. He also starts opening up to her about his dreams. At night, the whole family attends a school meeting. On their way, Curtis stops the car because he sees a lot of lightning in the sky, but his family is still asleep and no other drivers seem to notice. This increases his concern about his mental health. On Saturday, while Samantha and Hannah are at the fair, Curtis and Duarte start working on the shelter. When Samantha arrives and sees everything, she is shocked and argues with him, becoming even more upset when she learns he took out a large loan. She yells, demanding an explanation for all the strange decisions he's been making without consulting her, like locking up Red. Curtis says there's nothing to explain and leaves the room to check on Hannah. Samantha has a breakdown. That night, Curtis takes more medication than he should, and in the middle of the night, Samantha wakes up to find Curtis gasping and bleeding next to her. She immediately calls an ambulance. Curtis tries to tell her it's unnecessary, but she ignores him. After the ambulance leaves, Curtis tells her everything and promises to visit the therapist regularly so he won't leave his family like his mother left them. The next day, Curtis and Samantha take Hannah to the hospital for a checkup, and her surgery is scheduled for 6 weeks later. At work, Curtis goes to the manager and asks him to remove Duarte from all his shifts because he doesn't want to give orders to his friend. Jim is surprised but agrees, warning Curtis that he's been missing work a lot. Curtis explains it's because of Hannah's appointments, but Jim warns him again. After work, Curtis goes to a store to buy gas gas masks, which turn out to be very expensive. Meanwhile, Duart's wife tells Samantha about the rumors and Curtis's behavior, but Samantha defends him, insisting they're fine. Later, Curtis works on the shelter, and his brother Kyle visits after hearing about Curtis's strange behavior from Samantha. Kyle is concerned about Curtis's health, but Curtis assures him he's fine and asks him to visit their mother. It's clear the brothers have a somewhat strained relationship. Before Kyle leaves, Curtis remembers he was looking for a dog and asks him to take Red. On a stormy afternoon, Curtis enters the kitchen and finds Samantha soaked from the rain. They stare at each other for a while, and she considers grabbing a knife, but it turns out to be a dream. At breakfast, Curtis can't shake the strange feeling from the dream. When Samantha tries to touch his hand, he pulls away. At that moment, he notices Jim waiting outside. Curtis runs to meet him and hears bad news. Jim knows about the equipment Curtis took without permission and fires him, leaving him with severance pay for only 2 weeks. Duart is also placed on unpaid administrative leave for 2 weeks for helping him. When Curtis tells Samantha, she slaps him and leaves the room with Hannah. Later, he visits the therapist, but finds out she's been transferred, and there's a new doctor who wants to start from scratch. Curtis can't bear to talk about his mother again, or lose the progress he's made, so he leaves without speaking. He returns to the shelter and continues working on it. Meanwhile, Samantha continues adjusting neighbors' clothes for extra money, but it's not enough. She has to use their vacation savings. At night, she talks to Curtis, who explains that he's ignoring the situation because of a dream and tries to reassure her that he's working on it. She announces they will postpone the beach trip, use his last paycheck to pay bills for 2 months, delay Hannah's surgery, and focus on finding a job. Samantha wants to work on their problems, but insists Curtis sees a proper psychiatrist and attend a weekend dinner at the school to break his isolation. At the dinner, Curtis argues with Duart, who blames him for being suspended from work. Curtis tries to ask him to talk privately later, but Duart continues complaining and accuses Curtis of cutting him off, despite being friends. Duart starts pushing him and hits him. Curtis finally snaps, yelling and flipping a table, declaring that a devastating storm is coming and no one is prepared. He then has a nervous breakdown, and Samantha uses the opportunity to take him away. Later, Curtis finds Hannah in the middle of the road and runs to get her. At that moment, birds appear in the sky, flying strangely. They move toward Curtis, who shields Hannah. The birds pass by them, form a strange shape, and then begin falling dead to the ground. Curtis runs into the house, and the alarm sounds. At that moment, he wakes up and realizes the alarm is real and rain. He rushes to take his family to the shelter as the storm intensifies. After locking the door, he makes them wear oxygen masks in anticipation of anything that might happen. Then they sleep, waiting for the storm to pass. A few hours later, Curtis wakes up and checks the door, but still feels the storm outside. He goes back to sleep again. In the morning, Samantha wakes him up and asks him to open the door, because the storm should have passed by now. Curtis refuses, saying he can still hear it, and asks Samantha to place her hand on the door to feel it, but she neither hears nor feels anything. Curtis becomes more anxious, moves back, and refuses to open the door. He hands the key to Samantha, but she refuses to take it, saying that doing so would only postpone the problem, and that Curtis must face his fears now to be well for his family later. Curtis gathers his strength and opens the door, discovering that the weather is beautiful, the neighbors are fine, and they are cleaning up the debris left by the storm. Sometime later, Samantha takes Curtis to a psychiatrist. The doctor finally agrees to give him additional medication and decides that he needs time away from the shelter, suggesting the family take a few days off to prepare because Curtis needs to be admitted to a specialized facility until he recovers. This means he won't see his family for a long time. The next day,
Welcome to Movie Slice, a ping point, quick fun recaps of your favorite movies. Sharp, funny, and to the point. Hit subscribe and get your perfect slice of cinema. The story begins with the commander of the American Army being kidnapped by an organization. They flee with him to cross into another country. At this moment, we see Sam preparing, and his commander tells him that he cannot let this officer be taken into the other country, and that he must complete the mission by any means necessary. Sam reassures him, saying, "Don't worry, it's not my first time," and then opens the door of the plane, jumps out, spreads his wings, and immediately flies after the other plane. He manages to reach it where the people inside are attacking the American officer. Falcon, Sam detaches a part of his plane, breaks through the door, and enters. He starts fighting them one by one, showing great skill, and no one can overpower him. Even when they shoot at him, they miss because he uses his wings as protection. However, during the fight, a bullet hits the pilot, killing him. As a result, the plane veers off course and starts to crash. Sam reaches the officer and tells him he's here to save him, but before he can, another person appears and starts fighting Sam. This person proves to be very strong and manages to hold off Sam until his comrades prepare parachutes and escape escape with the officer, jumping out of the plane. Sam regains his strength and immediately flies after them, chasing them through the air. Enemy planes appear and start firing at him, but Sam skillfully evades them. Using his shiny shield, he deploys weapons and destroys the enemy planes, continuing the chase. The kidnappers board another plane with the officer. One of them tries to stop Sam, but he evades and continues his pursuit. He manages to enter their plane and fights them again. During the fight, one of the kidnappers grabs the officer and jumps out of the plane. Sam follows, telling him he won't let him escape. His colleague warns him, saying there's only 90 seconds left before they enter Libyan airspace, and he must catch them. The kidnapper takes the officer into another plane, nearing the Libyan border. Suddenly, another plane appears and fires missiles at Sam. The missiles track him, and he tries to escape until he maneuvers them into colliding with the enemy plane, destroying it. Sam's colleague tells him there's no time left and to abort the mission immediately. But Sam doesn't give up. With incredible speed, he enters the plane, grabs the officer, and escapes just seconds before crossing the border. The tracking missiles explode in the plane, completing the mission successfully. Sam's colleague is thrilled that the mission was a success. Later, we transition to Tunisia, where Sam meets with his colleague and takes a break before traveling back to America. His colleague Torres informs him about a group called the World Smashers, who commit numerous crimes and aim to take over the world. Sam tells him to notify him immediately if he gets any information and assures him they will stop them just as they stopped others before. They part ways, and Sam returns to America. In America, we see a farewell ceremony for Captain America, where they want to appoint Sam as the new Captain America. Sam steps up, but contrary to expectations, he says no one can replace Steve and that the world needs heroes like Steve to stay safe. He leaves the shield behind and walks away. We then see Bucky in a different location, fighting and taking down enemies one by one. The enemies are no match for him. However, during the fight, he sees a hotel guest looking at him in fear. Bucky approaches him calmly, pulls out a weapon, and kills him. Suddenly, Bucky wakes up. It was all a dream, haunted by his past and the people he killed. He leaves and visits his therapist, who reassures him that he's now an American citizen and all charges against him were dropped because he helped the Avengers save the world. She reminds him that he committed those crimes while not in his right mind, but insists he must now live as a good citizen and never harm anyone. Bucky agrees and leaves. He visits an elderly man, his friend, and spends time with him. Bucky keeps looking at a picture of the man's son, the same person Bucky killed in the past during one of his missions while under mind control. Bucky wants to apologize, but hesitates to tell the man the truth. Meanwhile, Sam decides to take a break after the successful mission and visits his sister to spend time with her and her children, who are thrilled to see him. Torres continues investigating the new group, using his device to track them. He spots someone distributing masks to people on the street. Torres takes one, but sees a man with super strength wearing a mask coming out of a bank. The masks are given to help them blend in and escape. Torres confronts the man with a gun, but the man is unfazed, disarms Torres, and knocks him to the ground, saying, "Did you really think you could stop me?" He beats Torres unconscious and leaves. When Torres regains consciousness, he contacts Sam and tells him about the group's strength and how they seem to be injected with the same serum that made Captain America. Sam watches the video of the man and tells Torres he'll return from his vacation to handle the case himself. He spends time with his sister, watching TV, but is shocked to see an announcement of a new Captain America named John, appointed after Sam gave up the shield. Sam is upset because he didn't want anyone to replace Steve. John is a military officer with high physical fitness and combat skills. Bucky, also watching the announcement, is equally upset because Steve was his friend, and he doesn't think anyone should take his place. Bucky confronts Sam, angry that Sam gave up the shield that Steve entrusted to him. Sam explains he didn't like what happened either, and doesn't think anyone can replace Steve, but he has other priorities now. He tells Bucky about the group that attacked his colleague. Bucky decides to join Sam on the mission, and they board a plane together, and then they head on their way to Germany. Once they arrive there, Sam comes flying in his suit, while Bucky jumps without a parachute. He uses his metal arm to grab onto trees until he lands. After that, Sam takes him to the place where the group is located. They see them transporting weapons. Bucky wants to confront them and says, "We can defeat them easily." But Sam tells him to stick to the plan and follow his instructions, not to act impulsively. As the group transfers the weapons into trucks and starts moving, Sam and Bucky chase after them. Bucky manages to open one of the trucks and finds a girl inside. He initially thinks she's a hostage, but she smiles at him, punches him, and sends him flying. It turns out she also has superhuman strength. Her allies notice and capture Bucky, intending to finish him off. At that moment, Sam intervenes, throwing a small drone at them, but the girl destroys it effortlessly. Despite their efforts to fight her, she overpowers them. They realize she and her group are stronger than they anticipated. Just as they are about to be defeated, the new Captain America, John, and his partner arrive and rescue them. They team up and fight against the enhanced individuals in a fierce battle. During the fight, Bucky falls but manages to save himself before being run over. However, one of the attackers goes after him again. Meanwhile, Sam is knocked down but uses his wings to fly and helps Bucky. They manage to escape, but John pulls out a weapon and takes down one of the attackers, leaving only the girl. She fights back fiercely, demonstrating her immense strength, which frustrates John because he realizes he's no match for her, even as the new Captain America. Later, Bucky tells Sam that the serum these individuals have taken is stronger than the one he and Steve received. He insists they need to find out who created it. John and his partner offer to team up, but Bucky and Sam refuse, unwilling to even speak with them. John tries to convince them that they need to work together to defeat the group, but Bucky becomes even more irritated and asks the driver to stop the vehicle so they can leave. Meanwhile, the enhanced individuals, led by a woman named Carly, are shown planning their next moves. Carly is wanted by multiple countries and motivates her team, telling them it's only a matter matter of time before they achieve their goals of creating a world and an army of enhanced individuals for themselves. Bucky and Sam, traveling back to America, discuss the Captain America's shield. Bucky insists it must be retrieved, and Sam promises to handle it after dealing with the enhanced group. They decide to visit someone who was imprisoned after being injected with the serum, hoping he can provide information about the group. However, the man is furious with him, recounting how the military experimented on him and wrongfully imprisoned him for 30 years. He refuses to help, and they leave. Outside, they encounter John and his partner again, who insist on working together. Sam angrily rejects their offer and walks away. The enhanced group is shown transporting weapons again, but when the police arrive, one of them sacrifices himself by attacking the officers to buy time for his team to escape. They manage to flee in a plane. Bucky tells Sam that the only person who can help them now is Zemo, a dangerous criminal who previously targeted enhanced individuals. They visit Zemo in prison, and Bucky decides to speak with him alone. Zemo agrees to help, but only if he's released. Sam is against this, but Bucky argues they have no other choice. They orchestrate a prison riot, allowing Zemo to escape unnoticed. Zemo takes them to a nightclub known for harboring criminals. Inside, they encounter someone who recognizes Zemo and tries to attack him. Bucky pretends to be under Zemo's control again and fights off the attackers. They eventually find someone who provides them with information about the enhanced group's leader. Zemo tricks her into revealing the name of the doctor who created the serum. However, during their discussion, Sam's phone rings, raising suspicion. Suddenly, they are ambushed and the informant is killed. They fight their way out of the nightclub, only to face more attackers outside. They finish them off, but someone from the top of the building keeps shooting at those gangs and eliminates them. This is Sharon, Sam's friend and Captain America. She is wanted by the law, but she takes them to a safe place. Sam tells her, "Tell me where the doctor is, and I'll get you a pardon from the presidency." She immediately agrees. She then takes them to a Nike lab, where she has many connections. Through them, they discover the location of the doctor who made the serum. On the last day, she takes them to the doctor's location, and the next day, they go to meet him. They search through many containers until they find one with a secret passage. They enter and find a lab where the doctor is sitting. Meanwhile, outside, there are many guards, but Sharon skillfully handles them. The girl is highly skilled, and they can't defeat her. She manages to eliminate them all. The rest of the team captures the doctor and threatens to kill him if he doesn't tell them everything. He reveals that he made only 20 vials, all of which Carly took. He also mentions a girl named Donya, saying if they find Donya, they'll find Carly. Sharon then tells them they need to leave immediately. Zemo pulls out a weapon and kills the doctor to prevent him from making more serum, which angers Sam. Meanwhile, a gang outside fires an RPG at them, destroying the place. They try to escape while fighting back. Zemo confidently puts on a mask, climbs a container, and blows up the area. He eliminates the gang members one by one without hesitation, finishing them all, and even bringing a luxurious car for the team. Sharon tells Sam not to forget the pardon he promised her, bids them farewell, and leaves. Carly and her team head to an organization to steal food supplies. Sam gets a call informing him that Donya, who was sheltering Carly, has died, and that her funeral is today. Meanwhile, the mutants manage to infiltrate the organization, steal all the supplies, and destroy the place. Carly's assistant is shocked because innocent people died, but Carly doesn't care and is determined to achieve her goal at any cost. The next day, Zemo, Sam, and Bucky continue their journey to find the mutants. While Bucky is walking, someone from Wakanda appears and reminds him that Zemo is a fugitive who must return to prison because he killed the king of Wakanda. Bucky assures her that once they find the mutants, he'll return him. She gives him 8 hours to do so, or there will be consequences. Zemo discovers the location of Donya's funeral and decides to attend it. The mutants manage to find the hidden serum and plan to enhance their bodies quickly to become unstoppable. Meanwhile, Sam and Bucky meet John and his partner, who insist on joining them to return the fugitive. They all head to Donya's funeral, where they find Carly mourning her like a mother figure. After the funeral, Sam approaches Carly without his shield and tells her he wants to talk and help her. She refuses, saying she doesn't need his help. John grows impatient, disregards Sam's plan, and storms into the place to arrest Carly. She fights back, escaping while everyone chases her. She suddenly disappears. Zemo confronts her, shooting at her and causing the vials to fall. He smashes them one by one, but she escapes. John arrives, knocks Zemo unconscious, and finds one remaining vial. He takes it. Suddenly, Wakandan guards appear, demanding Zemo. John arrogantly tells them to leave. They humiliate and defeat him. Sam and Bucky intervene, but Zemo escapes during the chaos. The girl disarms Bucky's metal arm, which they originally made for him. Once they realize Zemo has fled, they leave immediately. John feels deeply ashamed, recognizing he's unworthy of the Captain America title. Later, Carly threatens Sam's sister and her children, demanding Sam meet her alone. When Sam arrives in his suit, he tells her to leave his family out of this. She coldly responds that she doesn't care and will continue her plan without mercy. Sam's team informs him that John has located the mutants and gone after them alone. Sam and Bucky rush to save him. John and his partner infiltrate the mutants' hideout. John's partner goes missing, prompting John to search for him. John, now enhanced by the serum, faces one of the mutants and manages to overpower him. Sam and Bucky arrive, shocked by John's newfound strength. Meanwhile, John's partner frees himself and joins the fight as they all battle the mutants. At that moment, all the superhumans attack them. John and Sam keep fighting them and hitting them until they manage to overpower John. Carly arrives, ready to finish him off, but his friend intervenes to save him. However, she strikes him, sending him flying far away. The force of the blow kills him and all the mutants flee. John rushes to his friend, deeply saddened, and when he sees him dead, he becomes enraged and consumed by anger. He immediately chases after the mutants through the city until he catches one of them. He beats him relentlessly until he finishes him off completely. The crowd stands around, recording everything that's happening, shocked at how Captain America's shield is stained with blood, a symbol that once stood for honor and justice. Sam tells him to surrender the shield immediately because Captain America America doesn't kill, but John angrily responds, saying they killed his friend and that death deserves death. He refuses to give up the shield. They try to calm him down, but he keeps fighting them. This time, he's stronger than them and manages to fend them off. He strikes Bucky, sending him flying away, and is about to finish him off when Sam intervenes again. John, filled with rage, breaks Sam's wings and is about to end it, but Bucky intervenes again. The two gather their strength and launch a combined attack, defeating John. Sam manages to take the shield from him and cleans it. After everything that happened, John returns to America, where the authorities strip him of the title of Captain America and suspend him for his actions. He feels deeply upset and tells them, "This is the reward for my service to you." Meanwhile, Bucky fulfills his promise and finds Zemo. Supreme are handing him over to the authorities in Wakanda. After all that happened, Sam decides to take a break and visit his sister. She reassures him, telling him that everything will be okay and that they'll get through anything together. The next day, Bucky visits Sam and gives him a gift, a worship hall built by the Wakandans. Bucky also meets Sam's sister, and they spend some enjoyable time together. Later, Bucky helps Sam fix his boat. After some time, Bucky hands the Captain America shield back to Sam, telling him not to give it up this time and to be the Captain America Steve wanted him to be. Sam then spends all his time training with the shield, building his skills and strength. Over time, his abilities improve, and he becomes ready to take on the mantle of Captain America. He gathers a team and develops advanced weapons for their plan, declaring that this will be their final battle, after which they can do as they please. The story shifts to America, where a meeting is being held with leaders discussing the deportation of refugees. Suddenly, an alarm goes off as mutants storm the building. Sam prepares by putting on the suit Bucky gave him, while Bucky and the police surround the meeting area. Sharon, disguised, tells Bucky they must ensure the mutants' plan doesn't succeed. The plan unfolds, and Sam, wearing his new Captain America suit, enters the building. A mutant confronts him, saying he won't stand a chance against them, and a battle ensues. Meanwhile, the mutants capture the officials, locking some in a car and preparing to escape. Bucky tries to reason with Carly, asking her to surrender and promising to help her. She dismisses his advice, saying she must finish what she started. Sharon secretly plants a device on one of the mutants, which later activates, killing him. The mutants then take two officials, locking them in a car to escape. At the same time, Sam continues to fight a mutant, using the Captain America shield skillfully despite not having the Syme enhancements as then. He flies off to rescue the officials and chases the mutants' mutant plane. Despite being shot at, he skillfully evades the attacks and uses a small device to scan the plane, identifying the number of mutants on board and discovering that one of the officials knows how to fly. He devises a plan to take out the pilot so she can take over. Meanwhile, another car carrying officials is being driven by mutants. As the mutants' plane collides with a police helicopter, Sam skillfully saves the people on board, protecting them with his shield. The citizens cheer for Sam, impressed by his heroism. He continues to pursue the gang while Bucky chases the car carrying other officials. Bucky catches up with one of the mutants and fights him fiercely. During the fight, the car is about to explode. Bucky desperately tries to unlock it and eventually succeeds. At that moment, John appears wearing a fake Captain America suit and shield. He goes after Carly, seeking revenge for his friend's death, telling her she'll pay dearly. He attacks her with the shield, but she dodges. The other mutants attack him, but he fights back, taking them down one by one. However, they overwhelm him and are about to finish him off when Bucky intervenes to stop him. During the fight, a mutant strikes Bucky, sending him off the building. The mutant jumps after him to finish him off, but Bucky manages to fend him off and fights back. Meanwhile, Sam communicates with the official on the plane, instructing her to prepare to take control. Despite being shot at, Sam deflects the attacks with his Captain America shield. He regains his strength and flies back to the plane, pulling the mutant out so the official can take over as the pilot. Meanwhile, John defeats all the mutants and faces Carly. Consumed with anger, he fights her relentlessly, seeing his friend's image in his mind. He shows no mercy, but she manages to escape. You get into the official's car and flee the scene. Meanwhile, the fight with the mutant continues. In the end, he manages to defeat him and finishes him off. Carly takes the car and throws it from the heart of a building. John tries to chase after Carly, but his sense of duty takes over, and he goes to pull the official's car to save them. However, Carly and her allies come after him and start attacking him, causing him to fall from the building. The car is about to fall, but Sam arrives at the last moment with great courage, pulls it up, and saves it. Everyone cheers for him, calling him the new Captain America. Carly then grabs a metal rod and throws it at the others, but it is caught. Sam steps in and continues to fight them using the shield. Carly tells him to leave her alone, but one of the mutants appears and throws a gas bomb at them, allowing them to escape. Sam and his team chase after them. Before Carly escapes, Sharon confronts her, telling her to drop her weapon and surrender. Sharon had already bought off Carly's assistant by paying him more, but she kills him because he was a traitor and would betray her too. At that moment, Sam appears and tells Carly that enough is enough, that many innocent people have died, and she should surrender. Carly refuses and keeps attacking him. Sam says he won't fight her, but she continues to hit him. He only defends himself while John and the police manage to capture all the mutants. Carly continues to attack Sam relentlessly, almost finishing him off. At the critical moment, Sharon shoots Carly, and she finally dies. Sam is deeply saddened because he wanted to help her, but with her death, her evil ends. Sam carries her, flies away, and takes her to an ambulance. The media arrives and interviews him. He addresses the crowd, saying that all this happened because of racism, and that it doesn't matter if someone is a refugee, black or white. We are all human and need to stop racism and live together in peace. He says he is conveying this message to all officials. Someone tells him that his message has been received. Later, another character tells Sam that he was impressive in the interview, jokes with him, and tells Sharon that he will ensure she gets a pardon. Their mission is now complete. They have eliminated all the mutants. Sam prepares to become the new Captain America. He also helps the man who was wrongfully imprisoned for 30 years, takes him to the national headquarters, and shows him a statue made in his honor as a gesture of gratitude for all he did in his life. The man hugs him, cries, and is happy that justice has been served, thanking him. After everything that happened, Sam and Bucky spend their vacation together. And that was the end of our story. See you in the next video. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos.
Hello everyone. Every page tells a new story. Welcome to the world of endless animation. The film begins with a doctor running through the forest, trying to escape from people chasing him with cars. These people manage to corner him, but before they can catch him, he jumps off a cliff into the water and successfully escapes. Since then, he has been missing, and no one knows anything about him, not even his wife, who was very upset but decided to focus on their son Adam, who was still a young child. As time passes, Adam grows up and goes to school, where his classmates start to bother him, tease him, and even throw gum that sticks to his hair. Even though Adam didn't do anything wrong, the teacher punishes him. After his punishment, Adam goes to the bathroom to clean his hair but is surprised when he finds that his leg has suddenly grown. His shoe is torn, and because he wants to leave school, he wraps his leg with a cloth. This makes all his classmates tease him, and despite their low voices, Adam hears them clearly. When Adam enters the basketball court to hide, 3 bully boys start bothering him and even beat him up. Adam goes home, and when his mother asks about the bruises on his face, he tells her he fell on the ground while playing basketball, which is why the gum stuck to his hair. But his mother doesn't believe him and tells him he must stand up to his classmates who are bothering him. She then cuts his long hair, which was full of gum. When Adam wakes up and looks in the mirror, he is surprised to find his hair has returned to how it was. This makes him cut his hair again so his mother doesn't notice, and he wears a cap and goes down to his mother, who calls him to go to school. When she sees the cap, she tells him it belongs to his father, and she is very sad because she misses him. Adam apologizes for reminding her of him. When he takes off the cap and she sees his hair, she thinks she cut it that way, so she puts the cap back on him to go to school, and tells him she will cut his hair again when he returns. We see a businessman named Hercule at his wig-making factory, and we learn that Hercule was responsible for chasing the doctor in the forest. He tells the journalist that his wigs are worn by the most famous artists and singers in the world, but he has invented something better, a hair growth stimulant. He then takes them to the doctor responsible for the experiment, and this doctor applies the product to a bald man. Suddenly, this man grows a lot of hair, but the experiment fails when his hair catches fire. This makes Hercule tell the journalist that they are still in the testing phase and will surely find the problem and solve it. We return to Adam, who is called to the principal's office. When Adam goes to see the principal, he warns him not to fight with his classmates and tells him he must take off the cap because it is not allowed in school. When Adam takes off the cap, he is surprised to find his hair has grown again. After leaving school, he puts on his father's cap and is very happy with it, but a group of bully boys comes and starts bothering him. One of these boys takes the cap from Adam, and before he can tear it, Adam knocks him to the ground, takes the cap from him, and runs away. The boys chase him until they reach an amusement park where they manage to corner him when he enters a large pipe. When they try to beat Adam, he jumps up and kicks them with his leg and runs away. He goes home, puzzled by what happened. Before the boys leave, one of them throws a stone at Adam's house, breaking the window. When Adam starts to quickly collect the glass before his mother arrives, he sees a closed hole in the ground. He removes the cover and takes the box from the hole. When he opens the box, he finds letters from his father and learns that he is still alive. When his mother returns home, Adam is very upset with her for hiding the fact that his father is still alive and asks her why his father hasn't come to see him yet. She tells him that his father is indeed still alive, but she cannot tell him where he is because it would be dangerous for them. Adam is very upset with her for hiding the truth and leaves her and goes to his room, but he has a paper with the address of the post box from which his father sends letters. He decides to go to that address in hopes of meeting him. He takes his bag and leaves through the window so his mother won't know he left the house. Then he walks until he reaches the road, where he stops a truck and asks the driver to take him to that address. Initially, the driver refuses because the address is very far, but Adam tells him he is lost from his family and gets into the truck before the driver refuses again. The driver is forced to take him to the place he wants. The next morning, Adam's mother goes to wake him up because it's time for school, and when she opens the room door, she is surprised to find he is not there. She becomes worried and starts looking for him. We return to Adam, who finally arrives at the post box from which his father sends letters. The box is located on the road, in the middle of the forest. When Adam opens the box, he finds a letter, but before he can take it, a squirrel snatches it from him and runs into the forest. Adam runs after it but cannot catch it. He walks among the trees, amazed by their shape and beauty, and tries to find someone to help him. Suddenly, he sees a leg full of hair behind him. Adam is very scared and runs quickly through the forest, but while running he falls into a trap and loses consciousness. Unfortunately, He ends up on the road, and there is a car coming fast. Before it reaches him, a strange animal appears and saves him. When the driver sees this on the car's cameras, he decides to call the press. When he arrives at the roadside rest area, he calls one of the journalists and tells him he saw one of the Bigfoot creatures. And this news spreads everywhere in newspapers and magazines because of the pictures taken by the car's camera. When Hercule's assistant sees the pictures, he asks him to bring the Bigfoot creature because he is the only one who can extract the formula they are working on. Indeed, Hercule learns the location of the incident from the driver, and there the guards find Adam's bag with his name and address on it. When two of Hercule's guards go to Adam's house, they find no one there, so they break the glass and open the door. In the house, they see all the letters Adam left on the ground. When they read the letters, they learn that Adam is the son of the Bigfoot creature. We return to Adam, who, when he wakes up, is terrified to find that the one who saved him is a man whose entire body is covered in hair. This man tells Adam he is his father, and Adam is very scared of him and grabs a stick to try to hit him. His father calms him down and shows him his pictures. He's plastered everywhere. Adam is very saddened because his father is a monster and hasn't visited him once. His father tells him he did this to protect him and his mother because pharmaceutical companies are hunting him. If they catch him, they'll exploit him, making him a guinea pig to accelerate his DNA. When his father asks if his mother knows he's there, he says she gave him the address, but his father doesn't believe him, saying they lied to protect him. But what they did could harm them all. Indeed, Hercule's men arrive, attack Adam's mother, and take her away. At that time, Adam is with his father, who tells him he inherited all his good qualities. He hears sounds from far away, has quick reflexes, and his hair grows incredibly fast. His father takes him to the forest, and they play. Adam enjoys his ability to hear distant sounds. When Adam takes off his shoes, he discovers he runs incredibly fast. His father also tells him he can talk to animals and teaches him how. Adam enjoys it even more when the animals devise a plan to scare away hunters. Adam tells his father he's always been online and never played a real game. His father doesn't know what the internet is, so Adam says he'll teach him later. His father says he can never go back with him and recounts his days as a student. He experimented on himself, resulting in a genetic mutation that gave him large feet. When Hercule learned of his experiments, he tried to recruit him, but when he refused, they stole his research and threatened his family, forcing him to flee and disappear. Hercule, who kidnapped Adam's mother, orders his men to find the Bigfoot in the forest. When the animals see what's happening, they tell Bigfoot, who is furious with Adam, blaming him for everything. Adam runs and surrenders. When he sees his mother, he promises never to reveal his father's location, a cabin by a waterfall. Hercule lets them go, but tells his men the Bigfoot's location. They discover Adam misled them, giving a wrong location. Hercule threatens to burn down the forest if Adam doesn't reveal his father's location. Adam doesn't know, so Hercules' men burn the forest and imprison Adam in a car, leaving him there. Before Adam suffocates from the smoke, his father arrives, breaks the car window, and rescues him. But it's a trap. Hercules' men sedate Bigfoot and kill him on a plane. Adam goes to his father's animal friends who initially refuse to help, blaming him for destroying the forest, but agree because his father is their friend. They manage to get into Hercules' last car, reaching Adam's father's prison. Adam uses his ability to hear distant sounds to locate guards and cameras. He sends a small bird to destroy the cameras. He tries to unlock a door but breaks it, triggering an alarm. Before the guards arrive, they enter the surveillance room, and a bear locks the door. Adam identifies his father's location from the surveillance cameras. Before leaving, they take all the weapons. They use the bear as a shield against tranquilizer darts. Adam leaves the animals to fight the guards and reaches his father. Hercule arrives and tells Bigfoot that if he escapes, he'll hurt Adam and his mother. Bigfoot surrenders to protect his family. When Adam asks his father to leave, he refuses, saying he's protecting them. Adam is disappointed and leaves. Hercule says he considers his father an employee and will send him a lot of money. Seeing a fire alarm, Adam triggers it, causing everyone in the lab to flee. He escapes Hercule and his men. He frees his animal friends captured by Hercule. He goes to his father, who initially refuses to escape, fearing it will continue their suffering. He agrees when Adam says he inherited all his father's qualities. Adam and his father destroy all the gas cylinders in the lab. Hercule's men sedate Bigfoot, and Hercule throws him off a bridge. Enraged, Adam uses his gun, causing the lab to explode. He finds his unconscious father, uses his healing powers to save him. Adam, his father, and mother live together, along with the animals. In Part 2, Adam was initially bothered by his large feet, finding shoes difficult, but he runs incredibly fast without them. He hears everything clearly from a distance, and his feet have magical healing properties. He can talk to animals, including a badger named Bulfer, and other animals who were his father's friends in the forest. Adam's mother wakes up to animals preparing breakfast, She asks them to clean the bathroom, which is full of hair. A raccoon named Ian throws food at her, and she scolds him. Unable to understand the animals, she asks Adam to translate, and he mistranslates to avoid conflict. The animals watch TV with Adam and his mother, seeing his father on a morning show. His father recounts his story as a research scientist studying genetic mutations. A failed experiment caused a mutation, turning him into Bigfoot. He hid in the forest for 10 years, hunted by a pharmaceutical company wanting to study his mutation. After the company's collapse, he can return to his family. He thanks his son Adam for finding him. The newscaster says it's a miracle. She can make him meet her agent, who tells her that all he's thinking about now is to make the world a better place. After Adam reaches school, he finds all his classmates gathered around him talking about his father. The school principal walks in, disperses them, and walks with Adam, telling him he knows how much he loves him. Adam jokingly replies that he was punished by him 2 months ago. The principal says it was just an administrative mistake and asks him to have his dad sign his picture and write goals under it. Adam leaves, saying he needs to catch his class. Everywhere he goes, Adam finds the kids standing with pictures of his father. He tries to escape them and hides in the bathroom, but the kids reach under the door. Adam escapes through the window, falling into a trash bin. His classmate, Emma, opens the bin and asks what he's doing inside. Embarrassed, he tells her he's researching recycling methods. Emma walks with Adam to his house, and he tells her all he wants is for his dad to come home because he's been busy lately, and he hasn't seen him at all. Emma tells him life changes suddenly, and she imagined her parents would stay together forever, but that didn't happen. Adam says his only ambition is for life to return to normal. Emma responds, telling him to look on the bright side and that everyone loves his father. Adam says he sometimes wishes it had remained a secret. Finally, they reach Adam's house, and Emma is amazed by their new huge car. Adam explains they had to get it because they have a large pet, and it's the only car that can fit its size. Emma leaves, and when Adam enters the house, he finds it full of models of his father and a stranger talking on the phone, with all the animals in the house busy with video games. When he meets his father and asks what happened, he explains it all happened after his TV appearance. The person on the phone hands Bigfoot papers to sign, but he refuses, saying he doesn't want to sell things with his face on them and wants to do something meaningful in life. He scares the man away, who runs to his car to leave. Bigfoot reads a letter from a non-profit organization informing him that the government has granted permission for an oil company to drill in their wildlife reserve. This happened because the company convinced the government that the oil extraction process wouldn't affect the environment, which is false, and the company is lying, threatening the ecosystem. The organization asks Bigfoot to use his fame and influence to speak out against the oil company before it's too late. After reading the letter, Bigfoot says that's exactly what he wants, to use his voice to help people. His wife is surprised when he tells her he wants to go to Alaska, and Adam is upset that his father just got home and wants to travel again. Adam retreats to his room, saying angrily that one person can't change the world. His father tells him he's wrong and will prove it. His wife tells him they need to discuss this decision. Bigfoot enters Adam's room to talk, but Adam is upset and says he wants to sleep because he has school in the morning. Before leaving, Bigfoot tells Adam he loves him. Bigfoot travels to Alaska by glider, feeling fear from air turbulence and the plane's speed. Upon arrival, he records a video saying he's trying to save what can be saved, telling the story of the place, and mentioning it was abandoned for decades and called a ghost town. Suddenly, an animal appears, runs towards him, and asks him to stay off its land. Bigfoot meets the people who sent him the letter, Pam and Seamus, who are protesting against the oil company's vehicles entering the area. They welcome him and thank him for responding to their invitation. Bigfoot is surprised that no one else is protesting, but they tell him they're the only ones now, but they're very passionate about the cause. A person named Errol appears, and Pam says he's interested in their cause because he was born in Alaska. Errol offers Bigfoot to share his tent, and Bigfoot thanks him, starting a live broadcast to present the issue to people. Adam watches the broadcast and mocks the low view count, number 14. Adam feels sorry for his father, edits the video, adds music and sound effects, and video calls Emma, asking her to share it with her soccer team. Adam hopes all this will help his father return before Christmas. Engagement increases, reaching millions of views. Bigfoot is surprised by the number of people who joined the campaign at once. Errol tells him the video went viral, and everyone saw it. Seamus and Pam are happy because people are starting to care about the issue, and the news is talking about them. Adam watches the news with his mom and the animals, seeing the oil company owner saying the world still needs fuel. So his company developed a clean oil system and became an advanced tech company, assuring his company doesn't harm the ecosystem. At night, protesters gather around the fire singing, But Bigfoot observes the oil company from afar with his binoculars, asking Errol why they need all this security if their intentions are good. Errol says they claim the oil extraction process must remain secret until they get a patent. Bigfoot insists he must know what's happening behind those walls. After everyone sleeps in their tents, he sneaks into the area without being seen by the guards. The next morning, Adam wakes up, goes online, and finds his father's video removed. When he goes downstairs, he finds his mom watching the news and discovers his father is missing. Errol says he saw him leave his tent, thinking he was going to the bathroom, unaware he'd disappear. The oil company's surveillance cameras caught him sneaking in, leaving nothing but his torn bag, suggesting a wolf attack. Adam doesn't believe it, saying his father talks to animals, so wolves wouldn't attack him. Adam's mom decides to book a flight to Alaska, but Adam suggests they drive their car to take the bear and raccoon, as they're wild animals that can help find his father and can't travel by plane. His mom agrees, and they take the car and leave. On the way, she reassures him and tells him that his father lived for 10 years in the wilderness and will not be in danger. Then they arrive in Alaska, and suddenly Adam's mother is startled when Errol appears suddenly at the window. The bear and the raccoon get out of the car, which frightens Errol, but he is told not to worry because it's a friendly bear. Adam's mother remembers Errol and tells him that she saw him on television and introduces herself. He welcomes her and tells her that everyone was scared and left after what happened to her husband. She asks him to take her to the last place he saw him and instructs her son to stay in the car with the bear and raccoon. After a long time, Adam decides to get out of the car and look for them, but Wilbur refuses to let him go, reminding him of his mother's orders. When Adam hears the sound of a car, he gets worried and sees a group of guards getting out, claiming to be friends of his mother. Adam does not believe them and leaves with Wilbur, who attacks the guards, allowing Adam to escape after the guards injure Wilbur and Tipper. Adam runs until he falls from a high cliff, and the guards believe he won't survive. However, Adam is still alive and climbs down from the tree. He checks his phone but finds no signal to call his mother. He continues walking barefoot in the cold forest and suddenly hears a strange sound. When he turns on his phone's light, a wolf attacks him, but Adam manages to communicate with it, explaining that he's there to search for his father. The wolf is surprised that Adam speaks its language and tells him that humans only destroy nature and care about oil. Adam expresses genuine regret and says his father came here to stop the oil company, but he suddenly disappeared. Adam promises the wolf that if it helps him find his father, he will do everything he can to protect their land from human destruction. The wolf tells him it doesn't know where his father is but can guide him on where to start searching. As they walk, the wolf spots a wild rabbit and chases it, but Adam manages to save it and helps it escape. They eventually reach the oil drilling area, and Adam takes a picture of the oil appearing on the surface. Suddenly, a drone appears, and the wolf and Adam hide to avoid being caught. The wolf refuses to continue with Adam, saying it won't walk on polluted land. It tells Adam that it has fulfilled its promise by bringing him here and expects him to keep his promise to save the place, then leaves. A helicopter arrives, and the company owner gets out, entering the building while talking on the phone. Adam follows him inside, disguised as a worker, and overhears the company owner saying that people are naive because they believed in the clean oil story. Adam records the company owner arguing with an employee after learning that the drilling is taking longer due to the extreme cold in Alaska. Moreover, there's a significant risk of using explosives, which could flood the entire valley with oil, posing a danger to the environment. The company owner dismisses these concerns, saying no one is watching them after Bigfoot and his group left, and he doesn't care about the environment or its problems. Adam quickly leaves after recording the company owner's words, who sees him leaving and becomes suspicious. Adam encounters Errol, who handcuffs him, revealing Errol's betrayal. He takes Adam to the company owner, who tells Adam that he only cares about oil. Then he throws Adam into a pit, telling him his family is inside and he can meet them. Adam turns on his phone's video camera, and after his legs are shackled and he's exhausted, he records a video telling the true story of the oil company, apologizing to his father and mother, expressing his admiration for them, and asking anyone who sees the video to share it so everyone knows. Then Adam tries to break the wood around him and falls into an old mine, where he finds his mother, who hugs him as soon as she sees him and reassures him after breaking the handcuffs on his wrists. Adam asks his mother about his father, and she tells him she cannot find him because there are too many tunnels. Adam says his sense of smell is very strong and can locate him if he makes any noise. At that moment, the wood falls on Bigfoot's leg, and he screams loudly. Adam manages to pinpoint his location and goes to him. Adam reunites with his father, who is happy to see him and his mother. Adam treats his father's broken leg after the wood fell on it. They decide to escape together before the place explodes with the oil company's bomb, which lands in front of them along with drones. They ride an old mining cart, and Errol decides to divert all the drones he has but eliminates them all. The company owner decides to evacuate the building and use the bomb, and Bigfoot and his family escape from the mine. Adam's phone connects to the network and he tries to upload the video to the internet. Adam and his mother fall into the water and his father goes down to save them. They hear the evacuation alarm and Bigfoot asks his son to escape quickly while they handle it. Adam runs as fast as he can and reaches the bomb with 15 seconds left before detonation, disabling it just before it explodes. The company owner cannot believe what happened and asks the employee to find a solution. The employee tells him that the only solution poses a significant risk. The company owner decides to use another bomb regardless of the cost. Suddenly, Wilbur and Tipper drive a car and see Errol and the company owner, who points a gun at the animals to tranquilize them. A dart hits Tipper, who is driving the car, and the bear tries to stop it but crashes into the bomb, which falls into the pit and is about to explode. Bigfoot manages to catch it and takes it to the surface. He orders Errol to disable the bomb, but suddenly a wild animal appears and attacks him. Bigfoot cannot stop the bomb, so he throws it, and it explodes in the sky. Adam emerges from the mine and embraces his family. News channels and the police arrive after Adam's video spreads everywhere, fulfilling Adam's promise to the wolf and saving the place. Bigfoot and his family return home, and Adam meets Emma, who tells him she saw the video and asks him out. The movie ends there. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an updates. Welcome to Screen Recap, your shortcut to movie magic. We break down the best films in minutes, keeping it fast, fun, and packed with all the essentials. Hit subscribe and stay updated with the ultimate movie recaps. The movie begins in a time when superheroes are the ones protecting planet Earth, including the two heroes, Miracle Guy and Techno. There is a malfunction in a special satellite belonging to their group, so Miracle Guy flies to space to inspect it. He is surprised to find the satellite destroyed, realizing that alien ships were responsible. Miracle Guy informs Techno about what happened and pulls out his phone to take a selfie with the alien ship, only to discover an entire fleet of them. They fire a beam at him, causing him to fall, and the battery of the device that enables Techno Guy to fly is damaged. He crashes onto the alien ship but notices the fleet and falls unconscious. Techno Guy manages to catch Miracle Guy mid-air, but his flying device malfunctions, and they both fall. The scene shifts to Missy, who wakes up and starts her day. She meets her father, Marcus Moreno, who was once the leader of the superhero team. He is watching the news about the fall of the two heroes, as he now works in an administrative role at the superheroes' headquarters. This is because he promised Missy he would no longer fight to avoid risking his life. Missy reminds him to keep his promise. Marcus then drops Missy off at school, tells her he loves her, and heads to work at the superhero headquarters. He boards a futuristic train-like car with a colleague, which takes them to the headquarters. There we see the head of the superhero program, Granada, and her team monitoring alien movements. They suggest sending only two heroes as they believe the situation is minor. However, Marcus insists the matter is far more serious and that the alien ships they see are merely a scouting team, with the actual fleet consisting of hundreds of ships. Granada then orders her team to send all the superheroes to confront the aliens and instructs Marcus himself to lead the team. Meanwhile, Missy is taken to a special school for the children of superheroes. Most of these children have superpowers except for Missy, who struggles to retrieve a ball stuck in a tree because she has no powers. Her friends leave her behind. Two agents from the superhero program arrive and take Missy with them in their car. On the way, Missy hears news of a state of emergency due to the alien attack on Earth. The agents grow annoyed by her many questions and lower the divider between them. Marcus calls her to reassure her that the agents will take her to the superhero headquarters for her safety. Upon arrival, Granada meets Missy and informs her that she will be placed with the other superhero children in a secure area while their parents fight the aliens. Missy is taken to a classroom filled with superhero children and is asked to join them. Granada tells the children to stay calm, but as soon as she closes the armored door, the mischief begins. One of the kids, Noodles, stretches his neck to eavesdrop on the door. He can stretch his body like Noodles. When he announces that Granada has left, the children start showing off their powers. Missy remains seated observing. A boy named Wheels, who uses a wheelchair because his leg muscles are too strong for his bones, introduces himself to her. Despite his condition, he has a sharp mind. He introduces her to the rest of the group and their powers. Noodles, who stretches his body. Oho, who draws strange but prophetic sketches. Acapella, who sings in different sound frequencies that can affect animals or move objects. And Slow-Mo, who moves slowly but can potentially move at incredible speeds. There's also Facemaker, who can change his face to look like anyone. And the twins, Rewind and Fast Forward, who can respectively rewind and fast forward time by a few seconds, though they often argue. Wildcard has has multiple superpowers but struggles to control them, and the youngest, Guppy, can manipulate and shape liquids. When the kids ask Missy about her superpower, she avoids the topic as she hasn't discovered any yet. They turn on the TV to watch a live broadcast of the superheroes battling the aliens. The superheroes appear one by one, cheered on by the crowd, and Miracle Guy, despite his earlier fall, joins the group. Missy watches her father lead the team and realizes he has broken his promise not to fight again. Alien robots emerge from a spaceship and begin attacking the superheroes, defeating Miracle Guy, who had never been beaten before. The other heroes engage the aliens but lack coordination, allowing the aliens to capture them one by one. The children watch in distress as their parents are defeated. Marcus apologizes to Missy via a smart missile for breaking his promise before engaging the aliens, but he is overpowered and taken aboard the alien ship. The superheroes are completely defeated. The President of the United States addresses the nation, promising to rescue the heroes no matter what. However, he is informed that the aliens have sent a message stating they will invade Earth within 3 hours. Instead of uplifting the people, the president expresses despair, prompting Facemaker to question how he even became president. Granada speaks to the children, urging them to stay put for their safety. However, the kids are worried about their captured parents. Missy convinces them they need to escape and help, revealing that the aliens already know their location because Oho had drawn a picture moments earlier, predicting the aliens cutting through the ventilation system of their hideout. This confirms Oho's ability to foresee the future, and Wildcard refuses her words and tells her that she is trying to play the role of the leader, but they all agree afterward to leave the place. Peacemaker lures the guards at the door, and when they enter, they find the children of the group. Missy tells them that they have decided to leave the place, but the guards mock them and tell them they will stop them. The kids place cushions on the ground, and Joby tells them they did that so they wouldn't get hurt when they knock them down. When the guard tries to knock her down, Joby starts beating them and knocks them all to the ground. She takes the entry and exit permit from the last one of them, but the guard manages to sound the alarm afterward. At that moment, the aliens enter through the ventilation shaft and take Wildcard. Missy quickly asks Rewind to turn back time for a few seconds. This time, Wildcard catches the guard and prevents him from sounding the alarm. They leave the premises before the aliens attack them. Noodles disguises himself in a security guard's uniform and stretches his body to appear as an adult. He exits the place with the rest of the kids. However, an employee discovers them and sounds the alarm. The young heroes realize they've been exposed and all flee. Missy bumps into Grenda while escaping, knocking her down. Grenda orders all the guards to close the doors, trapping the kids. Missy then asks Acapella to use her voice to manipulate the guards, and they all manage to escape afterward. They board a train using the permit they took from the guard and travel by train until they reach the end of the line. The guards surround them, and Missy asks Acapella to sing so that the sound waves lift the train. Acapella does so, causing the train to fly over the guards, and they finally escape the facility. However, Acapella is unable to change the train's direction with her powers. Noodles breaks a window, jumps out quickly, grabs onto a pole, and redirects the train. He then returns to the train, and Grenda and her guards watch them escape. She tells the guards she wants to find out where those kids are. The young heroes are still on the train, but Acapella and Noodles are exhausted, and the train starts falling from the sky. Missy asks Acapella to hold on until they reach a nearby place to hide. Acapella gathers her strength and manages to guide the train to the location Missy specified. The location turns out to be the private garden of Missy's grandmother's house, Anita Moreno, who is a trainer of superheroes. The kids greet her in disbelief and tell her they need to hide at her place, as there are less than 3 hours left until the Earth's invasion. At the superheroes' headquarters, Grenda discovers a signal from Missy's bracelet and is able to pinpoint the kids' location. Meanwhile, at Anita's house, she tells the kids they must take responsibility and save the world from the aliens. Missy agrees with her and encourages them to face the aliens and rescue their parents. The kids are motivated by the idea, and Anita asks them who will be their leader. Wildcard nominates himself as the team leader, but Anita tells them that Missy is the most suitable for leadership. She then takes them outside to a wide open area near her house to train. Grenda's guards manage to locate them and eavesdrop on their activities, reporting back to Grenda that they can hear the kids celebrating. During practice, Joby struggles to control her powers, but Missy helps her calm down. Slow-Mo also struggles as he moves slowly and falls, but Missy tries to manage the situation with the help of her teammates. On the alien spaceship, the superheroes are all imprisoned together, trying to come up with an escape plan. Unfortunately, they can't agree as each one thinks they are the strongest. They then receive a message from the US president informing them that their children have escaped the facility. Back at Anita's house, Missy feels discouraged, doubting her ability to lead the team. Her grandmother sits with her, reassures her, and tells her she believes in her abilities. Wilesy informs Missy that Grenda's forces are coming to capture them. Anita instructs the kids to escape through a secret tunnel in her house. Aliens capture Anita and take her with them. In the tunnel, Missy tells her teammates they need to think differently and lure the aliens out of the city to prevent its destruction. She then takes her tablet to light the way, and they exit the tunnel. Missy shares her plan with Wildcard in secret, saying there's a nearby spaceship. If they can reach it, it might take them to the mothership where their parents are held. They run to the spaceship and all board it. Noodles quickly pulls them aboard before the aliens capture them. The genius Moyles tries to operate the spaceship and manages to get it flying before they are caught. The spaceship then autopilots toward the mothership in space. During the journey, Missy and Wildcard start to understand each other better, and Wildcard thanks Missy for trusting him. After a while, they all arrive at the mothership in space. They disembark and explore the area, searching for their parents. Wildsea warns Missy that Grenda has discovered their location by tracking the signal from her bracelet, which she used to communicate with her father. He takes the bracelet from her and modifies it to track the signal of Marcus, Missy's father. They then follow the signal to locate their parents. As usual, Wildsea arrives late to join them. Along the way, Missy encourages Wildcard, who is struggling to control his powers. They then hear strange movements in the area, so they all hide, and suddenly they find the ground cracking, with massive alien arms emerging from the earth to attack them. But Acapella uses her voice to defeat them, and they enter a massive hall where a strange-looking pyramid is located. They are also shocked to find the US president with the aliens. They overhear him asking his assistants if everything inside the pyramid is ready. The assistants reassure him, saying that Earth's takeover will happen in an hour. The kids deduce that the pyramid contains the beings that will invade Earth. Before they can intervene, Granada appears with her assistants, telling them she's proud of how they escaped the heroes' headquarters to save Earth, declaring them real heroes. But then, a new drawing appears, showing Granada as an alien. The kids are shocked to find out that both Granada and the US president have been aliens all along. They capture the kids and lock them in a room. Granada tells them their weakness is their lack of unity, unlike their parents. She takes the water from Juby to prevent her from using her powers, locks the room, and leaves. Meanwhile, the superheroes are also imprisoned, trying to find a way out. Suddenly, a strange figure enters, attacking most of the superheroes who confront it. It turns out to be Grandma Anita, the hero's trainer and Marcus's mother, who had also been captured. She scolds the superheroes for losing the war because each of them is selfish and only thinks of themselves. Meanwhile, the kids remain locked up. Wellesley tells them he discovered that the US president's name, when read backward, spells I am an alien. They realize the aliens have been infiltrating Earth for a long time. Juby tries to use her powers to open the door but fails, saying she needs water to activate her abilities. Then Macy comes up with an idea. She pretends to give up, telling everyone they'll remain trapped forever and never see their families again. Her words make the others emotional and they start crying. Juby realizes Macy did this on purpose to collect their tears and uses them to create a key to open the door. Macy unlocks the door and they all escape. Meanwhile, Techno J manages to activate the surveillance cameras, allowing the superheroes to see their kids on the screens and realize they've freed themselves. Wildcard and Macy argue again, as Macy wants to stop the aliens from invading Earth, while Wildcard insists on rescuing their parents first. Macy takes the rest of the team, and Wellesley assures her he can stop the alien spaceship from launching. Granada sees Wildcard and Facemaker on the screens and goes to capture them, assigning other guards to capture Macy and her team. Macy sees the guards and urges her team to unite to defeat them. Acapella starts singing, affecting the guards, while Rewind and Slow-Mo engage the guards, taking them down one by one. Acapella and Juby also join the fight, attacking the guards. Wellesley uses his wheelchair to knock some guards over. However, the guards get back up, revealing their alien forms and chain the kids' hands. Wildcard continues searching for the superheroes but fails to find them, and Granada captures him. Macy, Rewind, and Fast Forward work together, using their powers to go back in time and defeat the guards by tying them up with their own chains. One guard has the keys, but Rewind goes back in time again to retrieve them. Granada interrogates Wildcard, who mocks her, calling her the dumbest alien he's ever seen. Meanwhile, the kids reach the pyramid, which is protected by an energy field. They wonder who activated the shield, only to discover that their teammate Ooh reveals herself as the one responsible. She admits she never believed the super kids could unite, just like their superhero parents. Macy tells her they've tricked her, as they are indeed united. Their plan involved Facemaker disguising himself as Wildcard to be captured by the aliens, while the real Wildcard is now in the spaceship's control room. Macy instructs him to disable the pyramid's energy field. Wildcard follows her instructions. They reveal they knew Ooh was a spy for the aliens after seeing a drawing she made of herself as an alien while they were escaping through the tunnel at Macy's grandmother's house. Ooh transforms into her true alien form, revealing she is the leader of the aliens. Wildcard disables the pyramid's shield, but Ooh warns them there are only 2 minutes left until the attack. She starts drawing alien creatures on her tablet, turning them into real monsters to attack the kids. Granada enters the control room where Wildcard is located. He tells her that his collaboration with Macy has helped him better control his powers. A battle ensues between the super kids and the alien monsters. Wildcard fights off the guards accompanying Granada in the control room. After defeating them, he uses a freezing beam from his finger to trap Granada. The superheroes watch everything happening through the surveillance cameras. The kids work together effectively to fight the aliens. Juby uses a strange liquid to cover the pyramid, transforming it into a giant shark, and she rides on top of that fish afterward, defeating all the monsters of strength. Messy leads the team and overcomes her fear after making Noodles stretch his arm like a rope. Then she walks on Noodles' arm, and the monsters try to attack her. She signals to Noodles, who withdraws his arm, causing all the monsters to fall to the bottom with Messy. But Noodles saves Messy and pulls her back up again. The superheroes are very proud that their children managed to achieve what they couldn't. Wellesley invents an electronic board to disable the pyramid, but before Noodles can disable the pyramid, she stops him again, causing the board to fall to the bottom. However, Slow-Mo manages to descend slowly and retrieve it. Then Wildcard arrives after defeating Grenada and all her guards. He flies with Slow-Mo, and together they manage to disable the pyramid at the very last second. What happens next is that the super kids discover their parents had been trapped in the pyramid all this time. Grenada arrives with her guards and joins forces, praising the Super Kids. She tells them that everything that happened was a test for them, because it's time for them to take their parents' place and defend the Earth. They did this intentionally to train them practically, because the entire galaxy benefits from Earth being strong. The alien leader congratulates Messi and tells her she's a successful leader. The superheroes finally reunite with their children, who prove that through their cooperation they could achieve miracles, and that in times of crisis they can be heroes, even if only for one day. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to receive the latest movie summary.